Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. You've got the message, right? You've got the sunglasses. You wear the sunglasses. They will tell you to subscribe to the Crucible. Rob Noerr, how you doing tonight? It's great to see you. Always high energy debates with you. I don't know how the hell you do it. Why don't you take a second, shout your shout your channel out to everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, my name is Rob Noerr. You can find me at Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube, twitch.tv/Rob Noerr on Twitch, and most importantly on comfy.stream. Rob Noerr, I'm streaming there live right now. I consider myself a populist conservative. I have sort of a libertarian bent, though I don't consider myself a full libertarian. This is right in my wheelhouse. I've been very busy with work and stuff, but this is a topic I'm very familiar with. In fact, it's probably the single most important topic to me, distrust of the government and our institutions. And so I'm really looking forward to this debate. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, Rob. You're always welcome to the channel. Unlike the next son of a bitch who's coming in, Ben Thorp. We will still give him a fair debate, but that doesn't mean I have to shill him. I'll let him do that for himself. Ben Thorp, go ahead.
Thank you, Andrew.
They can find you and kind of what you're about.
Yeah, I've just started a new channel about a month ago. It's blowing up the internet. It's called Ben Thorp, aka Abel. The last name is spelled Thorp, although Andrew has not chosen to do so in the thumbnails. There is no E, and it's not Thrope. Now, what we do there is Tuesday through Thursday, I'm doing analysis of religion and politics. Monday and Friday, my daughter, Grace, my beautiful daughter, Grace, and her mother comment really on women's issues, feminism, not feminism, femininity in the modern world. That's it.
Getting a little bit of feedback when you rock back and forth like you're autistic, that causes a feedback loop in your mic. So you might want to try to chill out just a little bit. As truth tellers here at the Crucible, and as people who do correct records when they're wrong, Ben Thorp's channel is most definitely not blowing up, and he is most definitely not blowing up with it. The topic tonight is going to be distrust of the state. We're going to let Rob Noerr go first. Rob, you've got 7 minutes on the clock, and then we'll move over to Ben before we launch into the debate.
So again, thanks for being here. I think this will be an interesting discussion. So I don't know Ben very well. Andrew reached out and said he thought it would be good interaction and wanted me to come up with the topic. The debate I saw with Ben was with Andrew, and it was sort of him criticizing conspiracy theories. I find people that do that often are unable to keep up with the facts on a particular issue, so they try to smear people as conspiracy theorists as a way to cover for their own inadequacies on the knowledge of the topic. That's not to say that there aren't outlandish conspiracy theories. Certainly there are. Let me just pick one at the top of my head. Epstein killed himself. There's a conspiracy theory, but the government tells us we have to trust that conspiracy theory. So never mind that little black book of all those sexual traffickers of children that were paying Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein that are in our Congress, celebrities, powerful people around the world. But I digress. I thought it would be interesting to say that I actually take almost, from what I see, we'll see what Ben says specifically on this, but the complete opposite position of Ben. So let's start off by saying a couple things. First, obviously, I could talk for hours. I do it all the time. We could go any direction we want with this debate. I don't think that government is the end-all, be-all. In fact, I talk often about culture, our politics being downstream of culture. When I'm talking about authority figures, I do mean the government, but that's part of it. I'm talking about institutions that sort of shape our culture and the narrative that we exist within. And so that's not just government. It would also be things such as the entertainment industry, the mainstream media, tech companies, perhaps churches, that run those sort of, the people that are running those sorts of cultural institutions. So there's a litany of things, but I will start focusing just on government and media. If we want to branch out, that's fine too. I don't matter. I think that we need to distrust these institutions more now than in any time in my life, and possibly more than any time in the existence of the United States. Now, the other caveat I'll say at the beginning of this, just because I say that we need to have a healthy distrust of these institutions does not mean that every time those institutions or the people in charge charge of them say something, that they're wrong. For example, if they tell you it's important to lose weight, which actually they're not, they're kind of celebrating people being overweight and stuff. But if they would say truthful things such as that, I don't say, oh, it's always the opposite of what they're saying. What I am saying when I say distrust is they have lost their credibility by being corrupt and lying so much that we should trust them at face value, or that they as an existence, as an authority figure, merits more trust than any other person. If an authority figure lies to you over and over again, they lose that trust. They could prove it to you, whatever particular situation, by showing you evidence, but we no longer should trust them just because they say something. I'll break down into 5 institutions or 5 situations within the government institution that I think that we could talk about. The first would be our domestic intel agencies, the coup they had on Donald Trump, the lies that they constantly told about Russiagate, the lies that they told about rioting that occurred all through the summer of 2020, and a bunch of situations like that. The second would be our foreign intel agencies and our foreign policy experts. They lied to us about Afghanistan. They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us about foreign war after foreign war, including Libya. And they've proven that they're not to be trusted. The third would be COVID. I think I'm allowed to say that now that I'm on Comfy. Am I right?
No,
Andrew?
we're still streaming to YouTube right now.
Okay. Oh, shit. Okay. The third would be certain illnesses that came about that we were told that we weren't allowed to question things. Many of the things that were said to those, we were told, shut up and just trust the science. And we can see how that's been erroneous. Fourth would be economics, economic situations that we've had in this country. We could see how we were told by economic experts that certain things would be great for the people in this country. And we just had to trust them because we're not experts. And predictably, the non-experts like me were absolutely correct when we locked down and then had massive money printing that it harmed us so terribly. And the last would be climate change, things that we've been told over climate change, where there is a consensus that we can't distrust anything. The coral reef's dying, the ice is all melting. We're going to have horrible, horrible situation after situation. The end is near, the end is near. And then just like the old Pentecostal church I went to that said the rapture was coming every week, they just put it off another year and say, trust us, give us all your money. There are many, many more examples that we'd be able to talk, but I thought that those were examples that I would start with, where we could see not just that we said, well, these people have a little more gravitas because they're experts and they have a degree, or they've been working in government and they have access to information we don't have, and so we should listen to them a little more. No, we were told by people that we are conspiracy theorists if we disagree. And not only that, now increasingly they're saying we should be censored from the public platforms that control our flow of information, such as social media companies. Now they're going a step further, saying that you shouldn't be allowed to be involved in the banking system. Then they'll go even further and say you could be sued for billions of dollars like Alex Jones. And finally, the final step of this is they'll say that you should be incarcerated or punished legally because you have opinions that are against what these institutions say. So I think we'll see what Ben thinks, but Ben seems to fall right into that trap as being a good little foot soldier of these people by smearing people as conspiracy theorists and saying, look, we just have to trust these experts. We need to trust the experts. And he'll say, yeah, I don't think always. I'm not just saying blind trust. But what we'll see is that in today's day and age, these institutions have showed that they're corrupt. They're becoming more transparently corrupt, and they're tightening their fists saying, and as we become more transparently corrupt or inept, you're not allowed to disagree with us whatsoever. That's what's increasingly dangerous. That's why now is the key time to have more distrust of those institutions. And the last thing I'll say is Andrew already made the best argument. I could sound as flowery as I want, but just watch the movie They Live. All you need to know is I'm telling you to put the sunglasses on, and Ben's the guy that's fist fighting me saying, no, I refuse to put the glasses on. In a nutshell, that's what the debate is.
I guess I'll just go.
I said, I'm sorry. I said, go ahead with your opening, Ben.
Okay. So I think I love this, the fact that we're diametrically opposed. I don't think we really are, but we do have two different kind of frameworks for what we're talking about. And I've spent the last 3 weeks of my life, which I would characterize as having blown up to some degree, interacting just by circumstance with folks I had no idea existed, folks who are nice people, but who are totally immersed in conspiracy theories and cannot even watch any video without assuming that there's a double agent and a triple agent and something like this, right? I got myself onto a stream that's some part of the truther world. I was immediately characterized as a Fed, a CIA agent, CIA agent, a member of the Hollywood elite, and everything else under the sun. This is a huge problem for our culture. It's a huge problem for the right wing, and it's a huge problem for the left wing. This is the failure of the Enlightenment experiment of everyone deciding to get together and find out what they think might be real. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people tell me, you need to do research. You need to do a deep dive. I've gone on the deep dive, and I've run into people who are so out of touch with reality. And this is a small percentage, but that they've said the government has programmed their mind, that Hollywood movies are written by them, and that everyone's acting out a script that they came up with. That's the extreme. Then it goes back to moon landings and 9/11 and all the rest. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but all this stuff. But there is a problem with a way of thinking that is overly suspicious. There's a place for suspicion, but I don't think Rob understands in the slightest the danger of only looking at the skepticism and only the negativity and staying in the goddamn echo chambers, only listening to people who agree already with what you're saying. It's a huge problem. We need to come together and have conversations, and we need, and here's my real blue pill, we need the church, right? If we're going to talk about institutions, we need what built Europe. What is it that's been undermined since the Enlightenment began? It's Christendom. And what is Christendom founded on? It's founded on the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is not perfect. We all know that. It's never claimed to be perfect, but it's had an excellent track record through the centuries of keeping us together in an insane place, and it needs to play that role again. Stop doing this research. Stop going online and trying to figure things out in your head. Stop opening the Bible and deciding you're going to figure out what's in there. You don't know. And for the most part, younger people are doing this, younger men are doing this, and it's a real danger to our society. It's a real danger to young men. I could sit here, obviously, I'm a wealthy guy. I've got a lot of things going for me. I could do whatever I want to do, but I want to set my life goal as getting into these communities, which aren't really communities. They're just groups of people on the internet, and telling these people, stop doing what is going on. And I don't think Rob's an extreme example of this, but his rhetoric there is all pointing in this direction. Skepticism of authority, skepticism of fact, skepticism of everything mainstream. And he may not understand where this goes, but come with me sometime, Rob, to the deep recesses of the internet where you find these people who take this logic to its extreme, and you'll find a very, very concerning situation there. We need to bring people out of their echo chambers, and I agree left and right, and I'm not saying the government is perfect, and I'm not saying institutions are perfect, but we need to have conversations with the institutions and with the authorities who do, Rob, know more than you and me about the intricacies of these details of these situations. I've been involved in scandals in the Catholic Church. I consider myself the most notorious man in the Diocese of Providence. I could never work for the church, though I have a master's degree from a Jesuit institution, and am therefore told by everybody that I'm part of a great world conspiracy. But that doesn't mean that the conversation ends there and I create my own bubble of Catholics and bubble of conspiracy Catholics who hate Pope Francis and all the rest of this nonsense. It's happening everywhere. People are losing touch with reality. I know we have a lot of Orthodox viewers. It happens in the Orthodox Church. There's a huge problem with aligning the Christian religion with conspiracy theories, conspiratorial thinking, an us versus them mentality, damning everyone who's not in your church. And this is the kind of stuff that breaks us apart. And once we break apart enough, the only solution, the only way we can talk to each other is with what? With violence. We owe our kids better than that. Look at what's going on in Ukraine right now at this moment.
You got to wrap it up,
women
Ben. Got to wrap it up.
I got a minute. Okay.
You got a minute.
There are women and children who are being killed by Christians and other Christians, and everyone's just defending their point, and now we're getting ready for a nuclear war. And you want to talk about distrusting the government. Let's have a conversation with these governments. Let's get people together, exercise whatever political power. Yes, there's corruption. Welcome to the human condition, Rob. That doesn't justify pulling away into my own echo chamber and pretending that I have no responsibility to the young people who I have pushed in this direction. Let's push them back, Rob. Push them back to sanity. Push them back to trust. Yes, there's a place for skepticism, but now is the time for us to come together, to have the hard conversations. I get how these people get in all these places, but it's time to pull them back as father figures. You have a huge following. You owe it to them to tell them the dangers of going too far in these directions.
Okay, gentlemen, I already know how this is going to escalate quickly, but before it does, you're welcome to super chat your questions to us through YouTube. We also prefer if you use the Streamlabs link. Always, remember to become a member and all that good stuff. Just a tiny bit of shameless shilling before these guys start to go at it. Make sure to follow Hypnotoad, like, share, and subscribe. The floor is open, gentlemen.
Go ahead, Rob. You started off.
Sure. Why don't I start? So you say that it's time to bring people together. How did this distrust start?
Started in the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment project was to say, let's abandon the institutions which give us order, and let's go off on our own into our labs, into our little groups, and we'll have discussions. That started in the Enlightenment, and the idea was man himself can come up with the knowledge he needs to make an ordered society, and it is failing us.
So that's not really what I'm asking. I'm talking about the distrust that you're talking about the rabbit holes that you went down. But I'll reference that very quick. There was distrust before the Enlightenment. For example, there was massive distrust in, feudalist societies where the serfs would have distrust of their leaders. This happened all the time. Leaders were usurped. The reason that there was not much action on the distrust was because such power was put into the hands of authoritarians, and the people didn't have the ability to sort of do anything because they were so poor. They were focused on surviving and things like that. Distrusting is part of human nature. It's actually the opposite. We could trust God. We could have faith in God and whatever our religion is. But to have blind trust,
more trust back then? Did they have more trust back then?
It depends on what you, out of ignorance. Out of ignorance, they perhaps did, because they didn't have the ability to meet their basic needs without having that distrust. By the way, this is where our society is attempting to go now. Our establishment's trying to return us to a neo-feudalism where we're all reliant on the government for our sustenance, and therefore let me finish real quick. Therefore, we're unable to distrust them, or else we won't be able to survive. They're trying to return us to your utopia. I think it's a bad idea.
No utopia I'm talking about. I'm talking about a time that lasted from about when the Roman Empire became Christian until whatever you want to time it at, 1600s, 1700s, in which people lost trust in the government and decided to do this project of, let me figure it out myself. Some of that occurred in the Protestant Revolution, in which Luther and his group decided to come up with, I'll read the Bible and tell the church what the truth is. And that's now fractured into, you know how many denominations there are now, with each of which have their independent understanding of the Bible? I think it's 30 to 40,000, right? That's the failure I'm talking about that's going on today. And yes, it has happened gradually. But prior to that, it's not a utopia, Rob. It's called history. There was a shared world view that the temporal powers, which were put there by God, which were not perfect, should be obeyed. And the spiritual powers, which were put there by God, which were not perfect, should be obeyed, but in certain ways could be protected from error. That prevented what we see today. There were no medieval people questioning whether the king was in fact, a psyop or something like that. People had a trust in reality. Some of that has to do with the internet, but I don't think it's the internet's problem. I think it's a certain mentality combined with the internet. So your historical argument is crap.
Okay, so we need to go back to the Dark Ages. That's when humanity was doing best.
The Dark Ages is the age from about 600 to 900. It was a very tough time. The medieval period. Do some reading, Rob. Have you ever heard of St. Thomas Aquinas? Have you ever been to Europe? Have you ever seen the cathedrals?
No.
Does that look like a
No.
dark age to you? That's what
Yes,
everyone
I think
goes
when
to
the
Europe
life
to
is
see. The
so
dark
like when we
ages.
saw that, when we seen, like, for example, in the past 200 years, massive increase in quality of life, massive increase in people not in crippling poverty,
Sure.
massive increase in life expectancy, etc. Right, those things without blind trust of the government. And again, you're conflating two things, right? Because when you talk about, like, well, we need to understand that there's, like, sort of trust in a higher power, that humans can't do these things themselves. That's fine if you're religious, that's fine. Like, but the problem is, humans are fallible. And so, for example, the Pope or leaders of any sect of a religion are fallible. They can be corrupt. They can be fallible. And to say, well, I wish we'd return to the time where we just blindly trusted them as heads of these religions and said, we're merely peons that are unable to understand ourselves. So if we just have this sort of blind trust, and when you then point to, like, you find yourself defending the Dark Ages, saying, but there were some cool cathedrals.
Let him get a word in.
Thorp,
let him get his word in.
All right,
that's it. He can go now. That's fine.
You're straw manning. You're saying that you believe that I think that the Pope, everything he does, every word he says is infallible. Come on, guys, it's been 2,000 years. We understand that's not what it means. In certain areas, yes. The Bible also, in certain areas, infallible. I'm not in one of these creation people, whatever. There's no dinosaurs people. It has worked. Rob, it's worked for 2,000 years. Who are the best people in the world? Christian people. And who are the best Christian people? Catholic people, of course. Show me your Orthodox Mother Teresa. Show me Pope John Paul II. It's not because of us, it's because of the grace we've received. Christian people are the ones who are hopeful, who are bringing the light of the gospel and truth to savage nations all over the world. And they've been doing that for 2,000 years at risk of their own life. How about a little gratitude? People like you who want to sit there in the echo chamber, parsing little things and breaking everything apart are a problem, Rob. But you're a very smart guy. You've got a lot of followers. Let's get you over here. Let's have an argument.
Okay. Right. Like I get the promotion or whatever. Not really the topic that we're talking about here. Again, no, it's not, because the idea that we're taking this just about, like,
we should be more distrusting.
Can you let him get a word in, Thorp? Can you let him get a word in?
Because what you're basically saying is we should all be Christian, but we'll go down this path in a minute. We're talking specific. You could say that and still have a distrust of the government and our cultural institutions. For example, if you're a real Christian, you would understand the rot in our cultural institutions right now. And so to claim that we're unable to be distrusting and that the government knows more than us, despite the fact of what the government's saying, if you are a good Catholic, which I'm not a Catholic, but I would assume that as someone who was a Catholic that was being honest would be able to acknowledge that the government's being antithetical in many ways to the Catholic Church and beliefs right now, right? So to say, when we're talking specifically about these government institutions, that, the government does know more than us and that we should trust them and we should stop being skeptical of the government is abject nonsense.
You can have a little, I'm not saying you can't have skepticism, Rob, but I'm saying you have skepticism within a foundation of trust in the basic truths of reality that people are losing trust in, somewhat because of the fragmentation of our lives, right? And somewhat because the internet allows us to do these things that people didn't used to do before, right? Wouldn't you acknowledge there is, if you want to talk about rot, there is a movement in a direction that is, you would admit, dangerous. Don't you think that's dangerous? Don't you think ideas can be dangerous in a society?
Yeah, but the best way for society to function is to allow those ideas to be discussed and to be robustly talked about. And when there isn't the boot of authority figures silencing one side of that issue, then we can usually see that the correct side will end up reigning to the crop. But I want to talk. I want to talk.
Can I respond to that? Okay,
sure.
So let's take the 20th century. You're familiar with that. You're historically read. How do you think the Russian Revolution, the Maoist Revolution, and the Nazi Revolution took place? What, didn't those start with ideas? Aren't those ideas, Rob?
How did
so? If you let people talk, this is what you get: a bloodbath.
Right. And the opposite end is we could see that the way that those movements were allowed to maintain and hold power was that they silenced opposition, which is what led to millions of people dying. They silenced them they silenced them culturally with pressure. Then they silenced them legally by saying they couldn't speak or they'd be in prison. Then they silenced them finally by lining them up against the wall and shooting.
Yeah, but what allowed them to
So the difference, what you're advocating, please let me finish. Please let me finish. So what you're advocating, like literally you're advocating ideas are dangerous, therefore we should make sure that people can't have ideas. This is the ultimate form of authoritarianism. And what authoritarians like Ben always want to do is say, well, if I was in charge, my authoritarianism would be legit. It would be good. It would be something that would be very good. But trust me, I know better than you, and the people that agree with me know better than you, so you shouldn't be allowed to have pesky thoughts that disagree. I will fight against that with every fiber in my body, even if it's people with bad ideas that I disagree with. I would still fight for the right for them to not only have those ideas, but to be able to freely speak. You'll fight for authoritarianism that would justify any sort of abuse against people that have ideas. And I'll bet if we delve into your religion and ideology that a lot of your ideas wouldn't match up with me, wouldn't match up with Andrew, wouldn't match up with a lot of people that consider themselves Christian. So just so everyone can see how authoritarian you're suggesting being.
But so you concede to me that the problem in those three revolutions, which together are responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people, started with ideas that could have been prevented from getting out there. Right?
No, I don't agree with that. And let me explain, because you're saying something that's sort of a universal
coffee
truth.
shops in Russia,
you asked a question. Let me finish. Right? Like, this is something that I could say that, you know what it all started with? People's need to breathe oxygen. That's the problem. If people didn't need to breathe oxygen, there would have never been a Holocaust. Like, this is nonsense. You're saying, like, well, the fact that someone had an idea is why bad things happen. Right. Yeah. But every good thing that ever happened, every bad thing that ever happened, all stem from people having ideas. This is something that is always going to occur. It is the foundation of human life. It is the foundation of what existence is. Unless you're a vegetable, if you are a sentient being, you have thoughts, you have ideas. And so your brilliant brainiac point is, doesn't every bad action start with a thought? Therefore, we should make sure people don't think. It is not practical. You can't do that. You can't stop people from thinking. And it doesn't prove we should have authoritarianism.
And now, right, Rob, hang on for just a second. Rob, can you turn your mic down just a little bit? You got a little bit peaking going.
Okay, so Rob, I think we agree. Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rob, you agree with me that actions are predicated on ideas, right? You may be familiar with the great work from Richard Weaver, Ideas Have Consequences. It's ideas that are upstream of of actions, good or bad. Correct? We agree with the basic epistemology, right?
Sure.
Okay, and you... Let me just understand, see, this is the problem. You come from a framework where there are good and bad ideas, and we'll just have to let it play out in history. And I am a petty sort of authoritarian who wants to impose my ideas. These are not my ideas, Rob. These are the ideas of the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church gets her ideas from God. That's the foundation of this culture. That is what... You claim to love Western civilization. What do you think Western civilization is based on? It's based on the idea that God revealed himself to his people and gave us structures that brought us out of hellish situations. And look at history, Rob. In the 20th century, man said, no, you know what? I'm going to follow ideas like Rob. We can all come up with our own little ideas. And then you had bloodshed and murder for a century. How do you not see that? It's not my idea. It's God's idea.
So let's take in conjunction everything Ben said from his opening statement till now. Now he criticized echo chambers. Now he's advocating for the ultimate echo chamber. Only one idea, Catholic Church, that's it. No ideas are allowed to exist beyond that. He says that human nature is corruption. Right. But we have to trust the Catholic Church, which is ran by human beings, that would be able to corrupt those texts, and we could never distrust them. This sort of philosophical religious argument is farcical. It's not even worth my time to engage in this level of discourse that, we just have to trust the Catholic Church, and anything outside of what they interpret the Bible as saying should not be allowed to be not spoken of, but not even allowed to be thought. And brilliant ideas such as actions stem from thoughts, therefore we need to control all ideas and thoughts. This is fucking stupid. I'm going to get back to the topic, right? When I said, where did this all start? We're talking specifically about these cultural and government.
This is fucking stupid. That's your response.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. You can respond.
I made a historical
No, that
argument.
was part. That was
It's
part
the
of
foundation
that
of
is
Western
my
civilization.
response to this. That is my response to this. Now on the topic specifically. So we were talking about these.
Well, can I respond to that, or you're just going to move on?
By all means,
I made an historical argument that Western civilization is based on this idea that God has revealed himself to us. Now, if you want to call Western civilization from the time of Christ until now, but until it broke apart in the 1500s, an echo chamber, that's not true. There was a wide variety of thought. There were just limits placed, Rob, on the variety of thoughts.
You need to tie this back into institutions and trusting them at some point.
Well, that's why we should trust institutions, because it's not. I understand if you say, well, it's all just a matter of me or Rob deciding who's going to be in charge. I would agree with him. Fine. But it's not Ben Thorp's idea.
Again, we've already got
anything.
I mean, Ben Thorp's advocating for the Dark Ages. He says now that we do allow ideas that are antithetical to the Catholic Church, it's just that people like him will decide what those limits are. Makes no sense. This is rambling.
That's a fallacy, Rob. That's called,
it's not a fallacy. I'm going to get to the topic come hell or high water, Ben. I'm going to get to the topic hell or high water, so you can keep rambling on, right? So on the topic specifically, one, these institutions such as the government, right? We can see that he's already conceded that they don't strictly follow Catholic doctrine. So that would mean that having a healthy distrust of them and actually being skeptical of them, which is my position in this debate, would be something to advocate for. Now, when I talked about who started this, talking specifically about these institutions, what is the reason for the distrust? I would argue the reason for the distrust of these institutions is that these institutions have shown themselves to not be trustworthy. They have lied to us over and over. Our government constantly lies to us. The institutions constantly lie. So when Ben plays this sort of both sides argument, he says, but I talk to like the Q people. I've gone down the rabbit hole, and it's my mission in life to try to bring those people back. The question I have is, if the other side is responsible for creating those people, and they're the ones that were distrustworthy in the first place, and if they're the people with far more real world power than the people that are living in a basement, listening to QAnon every day, why would your life's mission be to go after the people that are less responsible with less power, rather than the distrustworthy people in the echo chamber that are using their power to maintain that echo chamber?
Okay, Rob, let me point out two things here. First of all, I'm not denying that there are people on the left who do the same thing. This is a crisis on both sides. And I understand you could say the left is allowed to say things that the right is kept from saying. But it is people on the right, like you, who are good people, who are opening doors which shouldn't be opened on the right. And there are similar liberals on the left.
Give me an example. Give me an example of the door I've opened.
If you start questioning basic narratives, well, let's take the moon landing. I don't know. I don't know really your material, but you want to question, let's say, what happened in the last election? I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
We're not getting into that. No.
Okay. No, we're not talking about that. How about this, right?
You tell me something you're doing.
Sure. All right. How about Russiagate?
Yeah. And I've heard people say that Vladimir Putin is a double agent, and that when you start questioning things, and I'm not saying you shouldn't question them. I think a mature person like you, who has read history, who studied this stuff, can question some things. But you open a certain door where you say, oh, no, wait, Putin's working for the this, who's working for the this, and it's all a psyop. Don't you recognize? Haven't you found people in your groups who go too far, Rob?
Of course, right? But the question
what happens? What happens mentally when
let me finish to say? But this is the fundamental disagreement we're having, right? The idea is, should ideologically at our core, should we take your position, which is if someone is an authority figure, the default is trust them, or should we take my opinion, which is if there's an authority figure in what we've seen right now, the default should be to be distrusting of them, force them to prove what they're saying.
Okay, let me give you another example of this. I spent a lot of my, as you can imagine, teenage years protesting that my dad was not trustworthy. Okay, in a lot of families, this is what happens. I believe that young people should trust their fathers wives should trust their husbands, and that this is a kind of that I understand. I'm not making the advocate I'm not advocating that men are perfect, but they're a better bet than when you're 12 years old coming up with all of your own theories. The Enlightenment is more or less a rebellion against the Father, because who is the Pope? What does Pope mean? Do you know what the word Pope means? Papa, father, right? It started with Luther. Then it went to the Enlightenment, rejecting any kind of Christian Holy Father, and now we have the breakdown of the family. That's how the devil's working, Rob. Not by people trusting
right.
their father, trusting the Holy Father, and trusting their father.
I understand, and this is something that people often want to do, specifically when we're talking about sort of corruption in these institutions, and they debate me. They understand the facts aren't on their side, so they speak in platitudes, and they try to drag the debate into something where they don't have to talk about the specifics of what the actual topic is. I'm not going to let you drag me into it. We already had this discussion of the Enlightenment and your need to return to the Dark Ages and ensure that people don't have thoughts. I'm not persuaded. Now, on this specifically, right, what we can see is you seem to be suggesting, because two things that you're saying. First is, can people take it too far? Yes, that's true of anything. And I think you'll find, look, I don't think you should have to know everything I've ever done or said, obviously, but you'll find that I actually argued with people such as QAnon people quite frequently. I thought that QAnon was probably something that was a psyop that was set up to make people sort of become complacent, because they put their faith in an authority figure, this Q figure, and said, he's going to take care of everything. And so we just have to sit back and trust the plan. And as a result, that complacency allowed all sorts of corruption. So that, to me, is another example of people taking your prescription that we trust this perceived authority figure, except they're just doing it on the opposite side. They're saying, oh, instead of trusting the government, we trust what we perceive as an authority figure on the other side. My argument to those people was always, you should be doing actions yourself, right? You should never, any human being, there is no human being on this earth that you should put complete faith in and just say, I'll trust them, they'll do the right thing.
Right, okay, this is what I keep hearing over and over again. This is the Enlightenment thing. You're not going to trust anyone or anything unless you've done the research yourself. That's what you're sort of articulating. You have to personally do the research. But how are you going to do the research? You're going to get it from other authorities, right? That's how it happens. You're going to read the Bible through whatever lens you've looked at. You're going to look at the moon landing through all these videos. People keep telling me, you got to read this book, you got to watch this video. It comes down to, you have to trust someone, right, Rob? You have to trust someone.
Yeah, we all have some level of trust that we have to have. I'm not saying that. I'm not complete.
Do you think there's a lack of trust in our society?
Let me finish, right? What I'm saying is this: when someone, like, for example, because you don't want to talk about the specifics, I get it. So, like, when you talk about parents, you think that a son should trust his father. Well, maybe that's the default. But what if your father's an abusive alcoholic drug addict that continually beats your mom and takes all the money and leaves you high and dry? Should you trust them the 30th time, the 31st time, the 37th? At what point do you say, geez, I keep leaving him at home with all of my money and he takes it and gets drugs and beats mom, but I'll trust him again tomorrow?
Okay, Rob,
at some point you would say that that trust has to be earned. And when it is shown over and over that that institution or that person in this situation that you're saying that we need to have trust of, when it showed that they're not worthy of that trust, I think that healthy skepticism is what's warranted in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're portraying me as saying absolute trust in every authority under any circumstance. You can do that all this debate. There's nothing I can do to stop you from doing that. But you know that's not what I'm saying. But yes, I am saying your inclination should be to trust. You also made a claim that there's no such thing as infallible authority. Well, you know, as a Catholic, there is such a claim. It doesn't mean everything the Pope said. Okay, but right, this is a problem.
Oh, you're not saying as a Catholic. I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. I thought I didn't want you to have the misapprehension that I'm Catholic. That's all. I'm not accusing.
Oh, okay. What are you?
I consider myself basically non-denominational Christian.
Okay, so you believe that there is an authority in the Bible, in the Word of God.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would be inclined to tell others, like I don't know what your family situation, your sons, people who follow you, that this is helpful. Not to be overly. I had a guy on my stream the other day telling me 8,000 theories about the Bible that he had come up with himself in some kind of weird Owen Benjamin world. And wouldn't you say that if someone has skepticism about that, they should talk to your pastor, right? Or their pastor, right? This keeps you from going in these places, right? You don't see the link between Hitler abandoning his Catholic faith and chasing this kind of pagan nonsense that he was making up, the
there
racial
is,
theories? You don't think there's a
when
connection
when it comes to morality, it is true that the easiest way to have a code of morality, which I think is righteous, is through the Christian Bible. I agree with that. I think there are possibilities to get there, not necessarily through the Christian Bible, through other religions, or even through, but it's very difficult, right? And that's the problem.
At how those other religions, the
please,
non-Abrahamic
religions, please let me finish, right? But what I'm saying is, right, when we're using it, you're speaking on these platitudes again of religion, right? When it's not going to help you when the topic is specifically whether or not we should trust these institutions that are not being ran as Catholic. You can't, right? You keep saying, oh, you're saying I just need to blindly trust religion. I thought I still manned your position.
Stop saying that. I'm not saying that.
I just said, so you're not saying that that's what I'm saying. That's what you're cutting me off to say.
I'm not.
You literally said the words in your last
trust
speech.
Your father, religion,
right?
Or anything.
You just said in the last speech, Rob. You could keep saying that I'm saying to blindly trust, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying no. I'm steel manning you. You're saying that. You're saying no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that. Just stop interrupting and being contentious and just listen. Right? I'm not saying that you're saying necessarily blind trust. What I'm saying is your default position is when it comes to these institutions that we're talking about, such as the institutions that affect our culture and our government, that we should have the default position of trusting them. And I'm saying that we shouldn't. We should have the default position of being skeptical. And you're not talking specifics. You're talking in platitudes. So you say, but should not the Son trust the Father? And I said, well, not if the Father has shown himself to be untrustworthy. So when we're talking, and then your only response is, well, I'm not saying blind trust. Great. We've got that all out of it. So we don't blindly trust. Now let's look. Let's look at these government institutions. So let's look at, say, our foreign policy, the war in Iraq, the invasion of Libya, Afghanistan war, etc. Why should we trust the people that lied to us over and over in that specific situation? Go ahead.
Can I just sneak one more point in? Okay, you talk about psyops, and I understand this psyop idea. I take it to just mean it's someone's being tricked here. Couldn't you look at the Enlightenment and the Protestant Revolution as a psyop of the devil?
Not talking about the Enlightenment
Rob,
anymore.
look what happens at the end of it. Look at what happens 300 years.
I refuse to discuss this anymore. It's just constant derailing. It's constant derailing. We've already went through this. We're talking about these specific institutions and whether or not we should trust them.
You said
you can make it. I'm telling you, I'm not answering.
Hold.
I made the first part of my point, but I wasn't allowed to make the second part.
Hang on. He's humored you on this, Ben. He wants to get to actual governmental institutions.
Well, can I just finish my one point?
You can finish your one point, but just understand that you need to tie this back in to institutions.
I'm telling you why we should trust authority. Okay, so my point is, you could look at the Enlightenment as a psyop. There's nothing better that the devil could have done to undermine Western civilization. I think you're a champion of Western civilization, right? But you're playing into the psyop, Rob, because it is by breaking Christendom, by breaking us into a million sects and now subsects of truthers and all these people, that they're able to ride, that the devil's able to ride roughshod over us, right? And pass all of the agendas which we used to oppose when we could act together against these things. That's all.
Now listen, I just want everyone, I don't like to do this to sort of speak to the audience, but I just want to summarize the way the rest of this debate's going to go. I'll show something heinous in a litany of ways that these institutions do, right? Corruption, ineptitude, etc. It could be on the economy, it could be on illnesses, it could be on lockdowns, it could be on foreign policies. Ben won't talk the specifics of it. He'll just say, but this is how the devil gets you, by pointing out, for example, massive amounts of late-term abortions that occur. That's anti-Catholic. You have to accept those abortions, because saying that that's a bad thing would be going against the institutions, which the devil's then getting involved. That's how nonsensical this whole debate's going to be.
Let me
this
make
is
it
actually, please let me finish. If we're going to talk about religion, it's actually people like Ben that pervert it and do harm to the religion more than anyone like me could ever do, because they'll claim to speak on behalf of the religion, but in actuality, what they're doing is they're sort of acting as if sort of a placeholder or someone that's in allowing this sort of
self-indulgent. Let's get back to the debate.
Quiet.
We have limited
time.
time.
Let me finish.
Self-indulgent.
Please be quiet. Let me finish real quick. I'm humoring you on your stupid
moderation.
Bull. Talk about, right? And so what he's going to do is there is no evil no anti-Christian evil that the government could ever advocate for that Ben Thorp will say you could criticize, because the mere criticism of the government is in its fact being satanic. It's welcoming Satan in.
Bullshit.
So you have to
Bullshit. Does this have a timer on it? Is there an end to this ever?
Every specific incident I bring up, he'll go back to, but what about the Enlightenment? What about
Let me bring up a specific instance, Rob. Let me bring up a specific instance. The Second Amendment, okay? The Second Amendment, all right? Now, the Second Amendment, I think you could agree with me on this, okay? The Second Amendment, what was the fundamental premise of the Second Amendment? It wasn't about making sure people could hunt. It wasn't about making sure you could protect yourself. What was it, Rob? What was the foundation?
It was about keeping us safe from government tyranny.
Government tyranny, right. Okay. So that was the foundation of that. And the premise of it was, if the government gets too tyrannical, the people will rise up with their guns and overthrow the government. Is that correct?
It was, sure, it was to prevent that situation from needing to occur, but yes, that would be
the
end result.
But that's what they claimed occurred in the American Revolution, right? So
Correct.
They had to, this has to be the foundation of a government. And you think that's a good foundation of a government?
Yes, absolutely.
You do? So who is it that determines when it's time to take up arms?
The fact that the ability to have free speech and to have the ability to defend yourself, including against government.
We're talking about the Second Amendment, not the First Amendment.
Please, right. But I'm talking about they all work together.
Who determines when you have a violent revolution? Who determines it, Rob?
If I answer, are you gonna let me go more than 5 words before you start yelling the same question?
You just went in a huge speech.
Right, but I was making points. I wasn't interrupting you after I asked you a question.
My points aren't points. Okay, that's
no.
fair.
You ask a question, you leave someone respond. I got 5 words.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
Okay, I'm going to try to answer the question.
Not another question.
1, the ability to have that makes it less likely that you have to use it. Second, it's not an individual thing. It's a tipping point. When a threshold is reached, that there is a tipping point where people say this tyranny is too much. That's what determines it, not any one specific person.
I didn't say what. I said who. Who determines when it's time to stop following the rules?
I said it's not. It is a cultural tipping point.
No, who determines? Call for arms?
Again.
Let him. Hang on. You got to let him finish, Ben.
Again, this is just trolling, right? Like, again, I've answered the question. It's not that there's a specific person. For example, you can see the actual real world situation that occurred. Who determined that it was time to have a call to arms against the tyrannical British government? Well, it was a bunch of people that were the founding fathers, right? And it was over great deliberation and after many attempts and other things were made before violence was necessary. But the violence and tyranny against them became too strong. Now, the counter question I'll ask you then is, you think that the ideal government would be one that would say that there is no right to defend yourself against government tyranny and there is no right to free speech, because both of those are values of the Enlightenment. And so if you end up with a tyrannical government, you should not be allowed to defend yourself against it. Correct?
Okay, that's a good question. I just want to say something, Rob. Your entire career is telling people that they're living under a tyrannical government. Are you going to call them to arms?
No,
are you going to? You're not going to.
Can I make a point outside of the
being?
Can I make a point outside the topic
in this country?
I'm going to make a point outside the topic here.
I'm talking now, Rob. I'm talking now. You can't just keep doing your thing. I'm making a point to you. You're not going to call them to arms, and that is not going to be a solution. Do you know what it would look like if there was a civil war with the type of weapons that we're involved in this day? That may have worked for men back then in the American Revolution. I think it can be questioned. It's not going to work today. So now I'll give you a hot take that you can go on a big speech and talk to the audience about. I think we need to renegotiate both the First and the Second Amendments. I don't think Alex Jones getting a $967 million verdict makes any sense. It has to be that we say some things can't be said, Alex. And you're not going to, no one's going to ever pay that amount of money, but we need to start saying in society, some things cannot be said.
Okay,
so there you go.
First off, to talk stylistically, again, you saw what happened there. Ben asked me a question. I begin to answer. He continually rebeats the question and says, "Now shut up." That's how someone that is such a poor debater. There you go. That's how someone who's such a poor debater and doesn't have logic and can't stick to facts and talking specifics of an issue has to debate. Right? That's what they have to do. Secondly, I mean, again, Ben keeps saying I'm strawmanning, and at least he's being transparent here. He doesn't want you to have free speech. He doesn't want you to have thought. He thinks that some sort of authority figure. So he's going to keep, again, what I said is going to happen is going to happen. I guess this is what the debate will be. I'm going to start talking about heinous things the government did, specific things, instead of leaving him speaking vague generalities. And then Ben can explain to you how criticizing the government for those things is actually satanic, and that instead our role as good Catholics should be to shut up and let them do. First, hundreds of thousands of babies in the third trimester have been abortion. Ben says that's good. We can't question it. Go ahead, Ben. It's anti-Catholic to question that. Go ahead.
I'm not. You keep straw manning me. You want me to answer a straw man? I don't think we should question anything in the government or in the church. I do.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question. I answered your question. Can I ask a question back?
You didn't answer. You avoided it. Do you think we should criticize the government for allowing those abortions?
I said healthy skepticism is perfectly acceptable within a framework, Rob.
Who gets to decide that framework?
I'm talking about the same framework that you have, the Bible, right? You believe the Bible is the word of God. I'm saying I have a more, let's say, thorough, a more vivacious, I don't know what to call it, a more full
okay, let's talk about this.
Great,
you're a good Catholic. You have a great understanding of Catholicism. You have a fuller vision of it. So we're talking about babies being murdered. That's against Catholic doctrine, right? So you're going to stand
what's
up
the number one group opposed to abortions, Rob? You go out on the sidewalks?
I understand the need to interrupt because you understand this disproves your entire thesis. So
you could just keep babbling and babbling.
Please,
one at a time, man. One at a time.
I'm not babbling. I'm not babbling. I'm talking specific situations, which you're not going to answer. Again,
why don't you answer me the question?
Shut the fuck up, Ben. Shut the fuck up.
I've answered.
Answer the question, Rob.
Okay, I've answered the questions. Right? This is what I'm going to say specifically on this, right? When we start to talk the specifics, because he makes these vague generalities where he says to even be skeptical, to even have the First Amendment, like to have these thoughts is bad. To have the Second Amendment and the ability to defend yourself against tyrannical government is bad. But then he'll default to, anytime I point to actual bad things that's happening in the government, he'll just say, well, I'm not against all skepticism. But he'll never talk on the specifics of it. He won't, right? And so I have a specific question for Ben, right? You say that, no, we should be allowed to question the government somewhat. Right? We shouldn't have the right to free speech, but there should be certain things we're allowed to question. Who gets to make that decision?
Okay. Can I just want you to answer one question first. What institution in the United States has done more than any other institution to overthrow the abortion industry? The Catholic Church and Catholic judges on the Supreme Court.
He asks a fucking question. He asks a question. As soon as I start to answer, he interrupts. I will say that, yes, the Catholic Church, using the values of the Enlightenment and questioning authority, have satanically questioned abortion. Those evil fuckers. That's what they've done. Criticizing authority is satanic. That's the Enlightenment. So yes, you're right. The Catholic Church sadly has fallen and used the values, because we all know it's enlightenment if you're questioning authority, right?
No.
Oh, it's okay to question it when you say. Got it.
No, I'm talking about within a framework, right? If you have, I don't know if you have kids.
Who decides? Answer the question.
Okay, so who decides what's within the framework, right, Rob? I'm saying the framework of the Catholic Church is the Bible, which you agree, right? If your kids say, I want to violate the Sixth Commandment, do you tell them, well, you should have an enlightenment conversation? Or do you tell them, this is against the natural law and the law of God? Which do you say? Maybe both. But you don't say, go find out and do research.
Okay, I'm going to assume every question you ask from here on out is hypothetical, and it's that you're not actually asking me a question, that you're just speaking to yourself, because every time you ask a question and I start to answer,
I asked you a question.
Respond as if you didn't ask the question. Right? So are you asking me, or are you just asking a hypothetical question and responding yourself?
Answer the question, Rob.
Then when you ask the question, what it would behoove you to do is stop once you ask the question and allow me to respond. Okay? Now, when my son does something that I consider immoral against my code of ethics and would be against his code of ethics, whether it be through religion or not, that's a situation where I would tell him what my opinion is, but I would not via force him at gunpoint to do something. And that's why the government should not be allowed to force whatever religion doctrine that you want on people in this way, saying people should not have free speech, etc. Now, again, let me ask you a question. So when we're talking about the ideas,
you answered the question. Can I follow up?
I answered the question. So it's just going to be you ask me a question. Shouldn't there be sort of a quid pro quo?
Can I
now
follow
I
up?
ask you. Now I ask you a question.
Do you have an enlightenment family in which everyone gets together and has a discussion when you say something, or you tell them that's what we're doing because I'm your father? Which one?
No, my son's two.
Well, I've
or
seen
not
people
even
do
two.
it.
He's
I've
almost
seen
two.
people do it. They negotiate with their kids. That's the
Nonetheless,
enlightenment,
this is
right?
getting, again, so
Do
Ben,
you
I will
believe
give
in
Ben credit
authority,
for this.
Rob? Of course you do.
I'll give Ben this, right? Like, I'll give him this. He's very good at trying to get us distracted from the actual topic.
Oh,
so
Rob,
when it comes
so
to
much
abortion, but
commentary.
please, when it comes to
Save it for an analysis
abortion,
later.
please shut the fuck up. So what we've come to prove through the abortion debate is, okay, now he admits that there are times within his code of saying you shouldn't have free speech that it's okay to criticize the government. He still seems less vocal. It's not his mission. Think of what kind of good Catholic you would have to be for your mission in life not to be to stop the murder of children, right? But to instead to go on QAnon boards and steer them in the right direction. That's where the real focus needs to be. And we'll call out people, the same institution that's justifying the murder of these children, right? Even third trimester abortions, that same institution, instead of fighting that battle, not only why not fight that battle, but I'll go after people for saying we shouldn't trust that institution in other ways. Let me ask you this question, Ben. Are you a father?
Yes, I am a father of 6 kids.
If someone was a known murderer to you, would you allow that person to be in a relationship with your child? Would you say that your child should trust them because they're in a relationship with them?
No, and that's an idiotic thing to say. Let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you a question.
I answered your goddamn stupid straw man question. Let me ask you a question back,
Rob. Enough. Hang on.
Let me ask you a question.
We'll start off with Ben this time.
I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to answer. I'm not answering.
All right, well, I'll ask it anyways.
I'm not going to answer. I'm just going to ask my question after.
Fine, Philip, right. So waste the time and cry. Who is it that gives you the authority over your children? Who, Rob? Who gives you that authority over your children?
All right, now ignoring that question and saying, if you say that you would not allow that relationship with a person that's a known murderer, right? Why would you then say that we have to trust the government on other issues when you're admitting that they're a known murderer?
Who gives you the authority over your children? Who?
We're in an impasse. I'm not going to allow you to control the debate because why don't you answer the question that I was asking first?
I'll answer any question. Can you answer my question?
I just answered.
Who?
I just answered.
The Enlightenment?
I just asked the question. I just asked the question.
No, you asked a question. Answer the question. Who gives you authority over your children? Who? One word.
Me as a father.
Who gives you the authority?
Me.
He just
gives himself the authority.
Hang on. He's answered.
Now answer my question.
Whether you like it or not, it's been answered.
Fine. I didn't hear that. Maybe you said it before. I apologize.
Right now, explain why we need to focus on telling people not to be skeptical of the government when you're admitting that they murder children in mass.
Okay, so your criticism of me is that I'm not spending my time in the abortion sphere.
No, that's not my criticism. You don't understand.
I understand
what I'm saying is this. Right, I have to baby walk you through this stuff because you're not very bright. What I said was, if we saw a person and you said,
well, Rob, if you want to go personal here, I could really go to town on you, buddy. I'm holding back.
It would be better than this deflection that you're doing. But when we talked about a specific person, because that's how we had to do it, we said, if that person was a murderer, would you say your family should trust them on other issues? You say no. Now, when we talk specifically about abortion, you said, the Catholic Church is the biggest people that against this. But your whole take is this. My criticism of you is not saying you're not spending enough time being anti-abortion. My criticism is you're saying the single most important thing for you to do is to go after people that criticize an institution that you yourself is admitting is terribly corrupt and murdering hundreds of thousands of children.
What institution is doing this?
The government. The government.
The government is allowing this to take place, right? And governments are imperfect. And I believe that our government, because it's founded on the Enlightenment and not on the foundation that all governments should be founded on, which is the Christian religion, it has allowed evil to come in. Evil and corruption and all the stuff you're talking about. But you don't understand the core of it is the breaking of the Western unity, Rob. You think that you think that the breaking is the good thing. Let me just ask you one question, a psychological question. We can take it back. I don't mean to get personal. I'm just kidding around with you. It's mostly Andrew's fault. He was agitating me and swearing at me last night
on my face. You don't have
promotion.
My feelings.
Okay, but Rob, you would admit, okay, just like you won't have to go there. You would admit that there is a certain, let's say, rabbit hole. You know about these rabbit holes that someone could get into. At the very end of that rabbit hole, you would have a mental illness called what? Someone who thinks everything is a psyop. You know these people, right? Everything's a psyop. I know the real truth. I'm digging down. Everything is not what it seems to be.
People that would be delirious, like delirious, psychotic.
Well, paranoia, right? Paranoia. Right. Everyone's out to get me. You would admit that, right?
There are people that could be like that. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like our government.
Okay, I agree. There are people on the left who say this. I agree with you.
No. Why do you keep conflating that? It's not saying I have a distrust of the government. Isn't saying, well, the government's left and I'm right. It's not what I'm saying. That's right.
Well,
I'm saying that, for example, it is the official statement of the government, of the people that are in charge right now in the Biden administration, along with many people in these other institutions like the media. If you say, I don't think we should give billions of dollars to the Ukraine, they say, oh, you're an ally of Vladimir Putin. Now, that's exactly the sort of paranoia you're talking about. Sure. Officially the stance of our government.
Sure,
but we can't criticize that. We have to accept their paranoia, right?
Okay, but there was paranoia when the right controlled the government, right? The McCarthy era and all this stuff.
Again, you are conflating left and right. I'm not saying that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think there's paranoid people who think every time a police officer stops them that they're about to get murdered. I'm just saying It's left and right. I think it's super unhealthy.
Right.
I don't think the media
isn't left and
I don't think the media should have free reign to take this theory and broadcast it on mainstream TV. It's really, really dangerous. You can call me a bootlicker, but I don't envy police their job.
What theory? What theory?
The theory that police officers wake up in the morning to kill people who look a certain way. That's a really dangerous theory.
Okay, let's go. So if that's what you're saying, that there are certain theories that should not be allowed because it could potentially go. So what's the limit? A theory that is not proven that could cause harm to people shouldn't be allowed to be discussed in public, like in the media, on social media?
Well, wouldn't you say that theory should not be promulgated by the mainstream media?
Again, you're going back to the specific of the theory that all cops want to kill all people.
Yeah,
well, I'm talking you. What is the premise
white
behind
supremacy? You're not familiar with that
let
theory?
Me finish,
that they're
please,
a white supremacist country?
What is the premise behind that, right? So would the premise be because you wouldn't say, you're not saying that's the only theory we can't talk about. All else are good, right? You're not saying that, right?
No.
Okay.
Right. There are certain theories that are really
what is it about that? Please. So then you're saying, then we have to come up with, well, what is it about that theory that means that and other theories that also meet this criteria should not be allowed to discuss? So I'm throwing out, let me finish. I'm asking you, is what you're saying that any theory that we can't definitively prove that by nature of people believing it could lead to people engaging in physical violence, are you saying that all theories such as that should not be allowed to be discussed in public?
Rob, I understand what you're saying. You're saying who decides, right? This is the question. Who decides?
That's
who
not
decides? Well, it is.
That would be part of it. I'm asking you a very specific question. Like, you're saying certain theories shouldn't be allowed to be discussed. Can you fucking tell me what those theories are?
Well, can I finish? I was saying this thing about paranoia. We'll get back to that, Rob. We'll get back to that. Paranoia is on the one hand, right? If you're too trusting.
This is one of the most worthless debates I've ever done. You are so fucking wretched. You're just bad.
I do. A lot of people say that about me. I'm not sure why.
Maybe if
it's doing a great job. I think we're doing a great job. We're getting to the meat of the issue.
The reason that they say that is because you suck. That's why they say that. Now, that said, got to be the fair-handed moderator here, right? You are doing a lot of deflecting and diverting, right? You should engage in good faith with his questions. He seems to be trying to engage in good faith with yours. Try that out. You only got a half hour left.
He's the guy who told me he's not going to continue the debate and answer my question. I never said that.
Because the way it would go is you would ask a question, I would answer, and you'd say, "Well, I want to follow up." So I'd let that.
I'm not the one who gave a speech to the audience about how I'm a victim.
I asked the question where you admitted, yes, if there's an institution that are murderers.
I want to tell you about how hurt I am by my interactions with this guy. Give me a break, Rob.
That's not what I'm doing, right?
I
said that because you're deflecting, right? So the question is, like, if I made a big ball statement like this, certain things should never be allowed to be talked about. You would say, oh, okay, Rob, can you explain what those things are? And if I said, I don't understand the question, what are you talking about? What do you mean explain what those things are? Ben, you're saying the First Amendment shouldn't exist. You're saying that people shouldn't have free speech because there are certain things that if said are so bad that they should not be allowed to be discussed in the media or in public. I'm asking you, what the fuck is the criteria? What are those things? I said, are you saying anything that we can't prove is true that could lead to physical harm? And then you're like, I don't understand. What are you talking? I want to go on to something different. This is the crux of the debate. Can you tell me and the audience and Andrew, please let me finish real quick.
Whoa, you're going to go on to something else?
Let me finish real quick.
His thought, man. Jeez, calm down.
Can you tell me, Andrew, and the audience, as the person who's saying that certain things should never be allowed to be said, can you tell me what those things are?
Sure. I think obscenity should be illegal. I think that pornography should be illegal. And I think blasphemy should be illegal of all religions. That's an example.
That's it. So,
and all of those, of those laws are on the books right now. Those are all illegal.
So which one of those does cops want to hurt people fit in?
It doesn't fit into any of those three. You asked me
okay,
for one
so then
example,
you deflected
from
the fucking question. No, I want a holistic, we're talking specifically on one specific theory. And I said, what is your justification for theories like that shouldn't be allowed to be discussed? You can't give it. You don't know.
Sure.
And so you then say, well, you shouldn't be allowed to be seen.
No, Rob, shut.
That's what I'm asking for.
Shut it. Now, I'm going to answer that question. You said, what's the criteria overall? Because you're doing two things at once. You're saying, give me specifics. I gave you not one, but three specifics. And then you say, what's the criteria? I'll tell you what the criteria is. The criteria is the inheritance of Christianity, which has a natural law tradition, and then is worked out in law, right? And we get together, and obviously the Catholic Church isn't going to rule on whether, a cop can do this or that or needs this or that, is stop and frisk illegal, or is profiling in an airport illegal. We work it out as people in a conversation, but this framework gives us a conversation, right? So like, for example, blasphemy is illegal because it's first of all, it's against the framework that you and I both come from, the Western civilization, but it's also disrespectful of people's religions. So that's your answer to the criteria. Rob, life is a little bit complicated, right? When you have to make decisions as the authority in your house about what we're going to do with your 2-year-old, you sit there screaming at your wife that you need a criteria. You figure it out based on principles that you adhere to, such as that we shouldn't put our needs in front of our son's needs, such as that God has given us some commands to follow such as the rich biblical tradition, which shows good fathers and bad sons and good sons. That's the answer to your question.
All right. So it's no longer relevant to engage in a back and forth with Ben. He is totally deflecting and trolling.
I gave you an answer to your question.
So I'm just going to say my piece, and then I'll leave him give a speech, and then we'll finish out the debate that way. So
why don't you respond?
The reason that I was asking those specific questions.
Let him. You can let him get a word in now,
baby. What about what I said?
Again, so what you see is, right, he said something specifically. So what we're trying to talk about is these actual institutions. So I outlined in my opening statement, I said things like domestic intel. I said Russiagate. That was something we talked about. This is where Trump supporters actually were engaged in violence. We saw people connected to Republicans that were harmed, like Rand Paul, Steve Scalise, others that were harmed. A lot of it had to do with people's belief that Trump was a Russian agent. This was a lie spread by the government that was put on social media, that was put in the media over and over again. So what I'm trying to do to get through these questions, Ben, because what he's always going to do is speak in generalities when he loses a specific point. So I'm trying to get him to give his overarching theory as someone who's saying people like me should control what you say. You shouldn't be allowed to have free speech unless me and the people like me decide that what you're saying is acceptable, and certain things shouldn't be allowed to be accepted. That's why I'm trying to give him to give me sort of what the criteria is. He says blasphemy, obscenity, but nothing that he talked about, saying that we shouldn't be allowed to talk about racist cops or violent cops fits into that. And then when pressed on it, he says some vague generality of good Catholics will come together and decide as people what should be allowed to be said and what not. But the entire debate is whether or not we should trust these institutions. And again, what I'm saying is the institutions are more powerful, and they're actually more responsible. So they have the power to do things to you, and they're more responsible for spreading the exact same type of disinformation that gets people hurt that Ben seems to be criticizing, such as Russiagate, such as the foreign intel agencies, if we looked at their lies about Afghanistan, Iraq, and places like that, such as disease that came along that resulted in things like lockdowns that we were lied to about about corruptly, and that there was hypocrisy about people in positions of our leadership that led to people losing their small businesses, losing family members, their children losing education opportunities, such as the economy, which was devastated by things that were said. All of these things are things that we should have a healthy distrust of the government, but I can't talk about them specifically because Ben's a fucking worm, and he'll say, well, we can't question things, or actually that's going with the Enlightenment, so we have to believe these people. But then anytime I talk about something specific, he goes, yeah, maybe in my framework we could criticize that. It's absurd, and it proves why his ideology is bad, because he can't even articulate to you. If I was saying that I know so much that we should censor people that disagree with me and they shouldn't be allowed to disagree or have thoughts, you would expect me to at least have a basic formula for what exactly that would look like. But instead, this guy speaks in platitudes and generalities.
My turn. Okay, what we have here, folks, is a debate in which all of these things, all Rob is doing is straw manning my position and then saying I'm not going to give him specifics. When he asks for specific answers to questions, I give them to him. I am not I'm just making a different point. I wish we could have engaged on the actual point. The question here is not whether certain events happened and let's do a lot of research and things like that. As I understand it, our topic was we should be more distrusting of governments and institutions and entities. That's what I got on the debate. That's a general question, and it deserves a general discussion. The fact that we didn't go into anything in detail, I think, speaks to the fact that we had the debate that we agreed to have. I answered every question that Rob asked. He's the one who went grandstanding and having speeches. I do appeal to the audience that clearly I was being much more rational than Rob, but I don't intend to rub his nose in his obvious failure tonight. What I want to say is, I think a lot of things that Rob is doing are good things. I agree with him about a lot of this skepticism. And he doesn't realize that the framework that he has for having his conversations, which he doesn't talk about, is that Christian framework that he comes from. But he should I would challenge him, take some time to follow this past your libertarian world, where people get continually red-pilled, and see where it leads. My point previously was that Rob wouldn't answer. I was trying to be a little, philosophical. There's one place where it leads to paranoia. There is such a thing as being gullible, right? There is such a thing as being too trusting, but that's a much better problem to have. It's the problem that children have, where they're too trusting of their parents. Now, Rob has basically made his career out of bitching to young men about how their daddy, the government, has betrayed them. He should get out of this cycle and get out of his daddy issues, work them out, and have a fruitful conversation with people in power, with those young men who are listening to him, and say, okay, we want to participate. Not red-pilling them on that stupid conspiracy theory, which is going to leave these young men, not you, because you have this framework, lead these young men into a frightfully dangerous position. Now, I'm not saying you're doing that, but you're pushing it in that direction. You have to see this, Robert. I'm calling you as a fellow Christian to pull back on this and help me in my blue pill crusade against paranoia.
Ben is a fake Christian. He would be right there cheering on Mao's China and people that wanted to rise up against the human rights abuses, saying, how dare you criticize
Rob, I had
Mao?
a great discussion with you.
Please be quiet.
It was a lot of fun.
Please be quiet. I sit there and he would be right there cheering on Mao. He would be ratting out his neighbors that questioned Mao, saying, what do you have, daddy issues? You don't trust Mao? This is insane nonsense, right? And this is what I hate the most. I don't claim to be someone who's well-read in Christianity. I know that people in the Crucible audience will know that. I have beliefs that many people would say, such as I think that gay marriage should be legal, that many people that are very religious despise that belief and take me to task for it. And we have arguments for that all the time, right? But what I do know is this: my heartfelt and honest being open with that is far less damaging to the country and to Christianity as a whole than what Ben is doing here. What Ben is doing is being such a bootlicker that he takes one of the most anti-Christian governments that exist and says that people that want to legitimately criticize them have daddy issues, and instead we should be pacifying those people with legitimate criticisms to say that they should always trust what daddy government says and never fight or argue. In fact, we should repeal your ability to defend yourself from the government, and we should repeal your ability to have free speech to be able to criticize the government. That's who Ben is, and he'll try to get out of it. He'll try to say, oh, no. When you nail me down on a specific position, I'll say that one is one of the ones that's
okay, Rob, time out.
No, time out. I gave you a large chunk of time. There is no interaction.
You made a final statement. I made a final statement. Now you're making a second final statement.
You've shown yourself incapable of having a back and forth. So you give a big, long tirade. I give a big, long tirade. Unfortunately, that's how it has to be because your inability to engage on the topic. And so that's who Ben is. He's actually worse for the cause of Christianity, and he certainly would lead to a tyranny that would be a wet dream for someone like Hitler or Mao, because they would be sitting there cheering brown shirt Ben on, saying, yes, this man is exactly right. You have daddy issues if you criticize the horrible anti-Christian things we're doing, if you criticize the horrible tyrannical things you're doing, if you're upset that you lost your business because we lied to you, if you're upset that your child died in war because we lied to you, you can't criticize. Clearly you have daddy issues. Ben is...
We get it. We get it.
Right.
We get it.
Right.
Okay.
But I'll have the last word before I give it to you.
No, you won't have the last word. I'll have.
No, I'll leave you talk, but I'm going to have the last word of my own point of thought here. Right.
Well, let's wrap it up.
That's who Ben is. That's what he's doing here, and it's really frustrating to engage in someone. This always is the case when I start to debate corruption in the government and stuff. No one could handle the specifics of it, so they speak in these empty generalities and platitudes. But that's who Ben really is. I hope you can see through it.
Okay, I'll be brief. I don't need long speeches to make my point. Rob, let me clue you in on something. You have a right of center boomer mentality, right? Young people today think that guys like you are losers, right? And I know you'll talk to your group, but these people have moved way further to the right than you. Libertarians are mocked, and rightly so, because young people have found that libertarianism is not going to solve their problems. They know it needs to be something much more robust. And now they're flirting with ideas that are further on the right, that are very, very dangerous. And you should, I'm not saying you can be as irrelevant as you want and have your little discussions with these boomers, but the kids who are the future, who are very angry, think of people like you as out of date losers, Rob. And I'm not saying you're a loser as a human being. I'm just saying you don't get where the culture is at. This libertarian quest that you have only makes sense to a guy like you who's had a relatively stable life. These kids see nothing in their future but slavery to debt and an impossible dating situation. They are close to despair, Rob, and they need something robust. They don't need libertarian. Let's have a discussion about it. They need something more robust than this Enlightenment bullshit, because they don't buy it. They're product of the Enlightenment.
Why do they view it that way?
They've had all these discussions. It's tyranny for them in their schools.
Why?
Because the Enlightenment has failed.
No. Why do they feel that way? Why do they feel it's tyranny? Why do they feel that they're being crushed by debt?
Because the student loan situation and the housing market,
but they shouldn't criticize.
Been allowed to
they
get
shouldn't
out
criticize.
Of control.
They shouldn't criticize the people that
like
led us
you, right? If we want to say the problem is usury, right? Usury. You know what that means?
Yeah.
Or he's muted. Usury. What was the bulwark in the West against usury? Right? That means interest on loans. What institution was the bulwark? I don't know how read you are in history. Right? Was the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church forbade usury. Right? This is where you get this whole Jewish banker routine.
That Catholic Church?
Yeah, the Catholic Church that
indulgences, right?
Has a theory of indulgences. I don't want to get into it, Rob, because I think we're wrapping up. Is that right, Andrew? There's a theory of indulgences. There have been abuses. I've been
but we can't call them out. We couldn't. That would be enlightenment to call them out.
No, that's your straw man again, Rob.
What are you talking about? Listen, I'll just say this. Ben's position here seems to be this. Geez, young people feel that they're going to be in crippling debt and that, the systems fuck them. And so the reason for that, the people that we should blame is Rob for saying, you're right, the system has screwed you over. That's who's at fault, not the system that screwed him over. Yeah. Please let me finish. So Ben's saying,
are you running this debate or is Andrew running this debate?
Please let me finish. What do you mean? I'm just asking.
Well,
to finish
I can
my
tell
point.
you
This is
for
like the
certain.
third
Hang on, I can
closing
tell you
statement.
for a certainty, Ben, you're not running this debate. So here's the thing.
I'm owning this debate.
Here's the thing. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do though, because
Great discussion, Rob.
We do need to wind it down. We got a lot of callers in the backdrop. I expect that this debate will continue with the callers coming in. So I'm not actually going to shut the debate down just yet. Usually I'll shut it down, bring in callers, but I have a feeling that there might be some more back and forth. So made by Jim Bob, you called in. Go ahead.
No. Hey, how's it going? My question's for Ben. You said we shouldn't blaspheme other religions, but you also said there are certain things that just can't be said, that shouldn't be said. What if one's religion calls them in belief and faith to blaspheme other religions?
Yeah, these are difficult situations in you're saying a multi-religious society. How do you work this out? Yeah, I mean, I do believe, okay, you're going to run into the problem of irrational religions, right? I'm not saying every religion is equal. I do believe that the United States needs to found itself squarely on the true church, which doesn't mean we can't have, right? Christendom had Muslims and Jews living within it, and we worked it out. I understand that in a Muslim society, you can't do that, but we're not in a Muslim society.
Well, if my religion calls me to blaspheme other religions,
yeah,
you didn't really answer what do you do with that, because that's a inconsistency with your position that some things ought not to be said and that we ought not blaspheme religions.
Right. It's the same argument as if my religion allows me to smoke peyote in prison, can I smoke peyote? If my religion says I don't have to fight in war, can I abdicate when I'm drafted? The answer has to be worked out. And we've worked it out with the Amish to say you don't, but it's a problem. So you come up with solutions that are fair. You know, we try to be as fair as we can, but we do not say that you have a right to resist the draft. But we do make this exception to conscientious objectors. So something like that.
But to point out, Jim Bob, I believe, is the caller, right? To point out, like, this isn't the only contradiction, right? He starts off saying the problem is echo chambers, and then literally advocates for the end of free speech and says that only discussions allowed to be occurred in his echo chamber. And there is wiggle room within that echo chamber, but that's the very definition, that there is
no free speech.
Certain things that, right,
there is no free speech. It's
right.
limited.
Now,
it's limited.
Please.
Free speech is limited.
Right? That's not what he said. He advocates for the end of the First Amendment, the entire thrust of
renegotiation of it.
Please. Again, Ben, this is what's so frustrating. It's not how much time you speak. No one gives a shit about that. It's that constantly.
It's more fun when there's back and forth. No one wants to hear.
But that's fine. It's fine if you're like, whoa, I have a question. It's fine if it's boring if you have a question while I'm talking. But just the constant jabbing in, like saying your point, speaking over you, you're only doing that because you're weak. Because you know
Rob,
that you can't stand on the veracity of your argument.
Debating style. What you do is you do this. You railroad people with this.
No.
And it sucks, dude. Come up with a better strategy. I'll help you.
You can see that there's an echo chamber that he's advocating.
Guys, the other thing, Ben, is you have this thing that's a running theme with you is paranoia, right?
Yep.
So it seems like this is just some open-ended. There's no real standard that you have for calling something properly paranoid or skeptical or paranoia, and you have no real way of measuring that. And in my experience of you, is it fair to say that you might have some paranoia about paranoid people?
I would say the standard is that it doesn't match up to reality. Now, who determines that standard? I think we all do. For example, Jim, when I went on your stream and you in your chat accused me of being a CIA agent, FBI agent, a psyop, all the Hollywood
theories.
A producer.
Those are theories.
And you even said, I wonder if this is a demonic manifestation. Jim, that's not reality, buddy.
Well, no,
I'm not working for the government.
No. Asking that
doesn't
question
make any sense.
Hey,
and
retard.
I'll tell you the answer.
Retard.
I'll tell you the answer to your question. I'll tell you the answer to the question from your world. You ban people who ask you questions.
That's not true.
A sign.
I ban people who don't ask me questions too.
Well, I simply asked a couple of questions. I've been nothing but respectful.
No, you were sneaky. You're still sneaky. You're still a sneaky guy.
Oh, okay. You can talk over me. That's fine.
No, yeah, you're a sneaky guy.
You don't allow people to ask questions. That's a sign of an
Are you paranoid?
Group.
Are you paranoid about people who ban people?
I actually got paranoid when you accused me of that, and I actually said to myself, "Am I a Hollywood reporter?" just for a
Right.
second. I was like,
Holy
did
shit.
I do something wrong?
You're irrational right now.
Paranoia causes paranoia. It's
You're
very, very
irrational.
dangerous, Jim. It's
Your
very
account
dangerous.
of what just happened is irrational. Like you're talking about a comedian slash commentator slash cartoonist, right? Who does impressions and all this stuff. And the chat
And
doing
indulges in paranoid
rhetoric,
theories.
right? Hold on. Doing rhetoric about you and being like, what is this guy? What is this guy? And people throwing things out in the chat and you taking it so seriously that you think we're invested in any of those. Like,
go to my channel.
we don't
and see how these.
no one
people
cares about your
reacted.
dumb channel.
It wasn't a
No one cares
comic.
about your channel. No one cares about your channel.
Jim.
No one's going to your channel.
If I
You
could
go
just,
to my
if I could
channel
just say a
every
quick
day,
word,
Jim, and spend 3
Can I-
hours there.
if I could just say a quick word,
Reality
like
just
on this theme
walked in.
again, one of the things I was trying to set up here, but because you can't have a back
You
and forth
spend
with
3
this guy
hours
is
a day
You
on my
can't.
channel. Jim.
How is
On
he
the
still
theme-
And I
married?
allow you to say what.
Holy shit. Ben, thank you. On this theme of paranoia, one of the things I was trying to set up is one of the most paranoid institutions in our world today is the institutions that are in power, like the government. For example, they say if you had questions about lockdowns, you wanted grandma to die. If you have questions about border security, you're a racist. If you have questions about transgender athletes, you're a bigot. If you have questions about sending money to Ukraine, you're pro-Russians. If you have questions about FBI abusive FISA warrants, you're a Russian stooge. Like this sort of paranoia that he's railing against, that's what's ironic about what Ben's suggesting. Like he says this sort of both sides do it, but this is one of the laziest arguments ever, because when you're saying both sides do it, that's technically true of almost any criticism you could ever have, that if there are two sides of something, there will be good things and bad things on both sides. But that hardly gets to the meat of the issue. The meat of the issue is which side does it more and which side is it worse when it occurs on. Someone living in their basement that thinks that Ben is an agent of Hollywood, they don't really have any authority to do anything. But the
It doesn't matter.
government saying
That's
we should
what
stop your
children
bank
do.
account, please. Let me finish. The government
I
saying
know.
we should
Shut
stop
it,
your
shut
bank
it, cut
account.
Cut it
The
quicker,
government
guys.
saying we
Finish
should
up.
stop your bank account because you're a Russian asset because you
Boring.
said
You're
something
making
that they
the
don't like
debate
on
boring.
Ukraine. That's actually damaging. And Ben doesn't have a word. He says you shouldn't criticize them for that paranoia.
Yeah, okay, now I understand your grift. You want to say, well, the left is the problem. We're not the problem. The left is the problem.
Didn't
They're
say
both
left or
problems. There are problems on both sides. That's what children do, Rob. Be a man. Be a father. Be a father to your community. And I'm saying the same thing to Jim. And help them to make a change, not to sit there and bitch about daddy.
Make a change. Make a change.
Yeah, make a change. Get together. And if you have a problem with something, find ways to act against it. Don't sit there and go crazy.
Wow.
Act
Well,
like victims.
Wait a
You
second.
act
Ben.
like victims,
Wait,
guys. Yes.
Ben, they did that. They had a problem with you and they solved the problem.
Made a change. I banned you.
I
didn't
ran for
solve the
government. I
problem.
ran for Congress.
I did.
What'd you do, Ben?
I run your channel abstractly. Your channel is absolutely
You're
consumed
delusional.
with me.
Yeah, you're
you spend
delusional.
3 hours a day on my channel.
You're
Is that
delusional.
true or
Ben.
not, Jim?
Ben,
Is that
hey
true
Ben,
or
I
not?
ran for
You
Congress.
spend
What have
3
you
hours
done?
a day on my channel.
What does that have to
Ben.
do with me banning you?
Ben.
Okay, so you admit it.
That's not a
I ran for
Is that
contradiction.
Congress.
delusional?
That's not a contradiction.
And I let you say whatever you want on my channel, don't I?
So, and
And you don't let me come on your channel and say anything.
and where's the contradiction or where's the
Wouldn't that
inconsistency?
be a sign that my world is much more open than your world?
Open
You
isn't
have an
good.
echo
I
chamber?
don't believe in an open world like you
Yeah,
do.
right. That's the
Yeah.
problem, Jim.
Right.
You
That
should
says the
believe in
guy
a more
says the
open
guy
world.
says the guy who actually explained in this debate that he thinks ideas are dangerous, right? First of all,
Can
and
be.
that you ought to
Can
shut
be.
down ideas, right?
Certain
I'm
ideas
actually
can be
consistent with your
dangerous.
listen, I'm consistent with your view. You're an idea that I shut down.
Yeah.
I shut down your idea, you as an idea on my channel.
You didn't
I'm
really shut me
consistent.
down, Jim,
I'm
because here I
consi-
am, and here
No,
you
no,
are.
you're
right?
you're not actually
exactly work.
you're not addressing the contradiction. You're not addressing that what I'm actually saying and doing is consistent with what you've argued tonight.
You have a
I've-
channel that's supposed to be exploring.
Would you like to address
theory,
what I said?
Correct?
Would you like to address what I said?
That what? That you're.
I believe
consistent?
you have bad ideas, and I
Yeah.
literally shut down your ideas
Right.
on my channel.
You didn't shut them down because your
I
channel's
kicked you out.
obsessed with me. Your
Okay,
channel's obsessed.
you're still
with
not
me.
addressing what
And
I'm
you're
saying.
personally
You're
obsessed
not
with me.
addressing what I'm saying.
Because you're a good man and you know that I had something to say. I wasn't.
You're
just
not
a
addressing
troll.
what I'm saying
Well, you could just talk over me, but I'm giving you the
because
answer.
you're not
You're
addressing.
obsessed with my channel, and you follow
All
it
right.
every day.
All right, enough. If you're not gonna answer, the
Doesn't
It's
answer.
hard. It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard to
argue.
answer a question.
Andrew
Anyway,
tried to shut me down. He knew I was good for his channel.
Ben,
he had the good
Ben,
sense
can
to
I
bring
ask-
me on here
can I ask
because
you a
he knows
question?
this is a great debate. Because I don't let this guy just go blah, 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 for 20 minutes straight.
Well,
I stop him.
Well, no, Ben. I mean, I want to be completely transparent with you. I really like to laugh at you. I'm not. I do. I'm not laughing at you.
And you're running an entertainment channel.
Really like to laugh at you. So anyway, Jim Bob, thanks so much for the call.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it. Have
See
a
you,
good
Jim Bob.
night.
Come up with something better next time, Jim. I love you, buddy.
Waiting, very patiently.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Ben, trust is a really big thing. I don't understand you're calling upon me to trust a whole lot in just, if I don't even trust my current government, how am I going to trust the government going into your perfect world that you would want for me to follow, or wherever else like this? Am I to follow you into this entire thing, or like how's this supposed to happen?
Okay, that's a great question, and I think I think what you said is absolutely spot on. Trust is tough. I would suggest, I have no idea what your circumstances are, but I would suggest that you start with your family and start trying to repair the fractures that may be in your family. Secondly, I would suggest, first of all, I think you probably in many ways do trust your government. When you read something in the papers going on in your town, my guess is you do trust the government. When something bad happens around you, you call the police because you trust them. I think there's a mixture of trust and distrust. And I would suggest that we have conversations. The internet, I think, is a great opportunity for people to, but you can't live in these echo chambers. If you want to come to my channel, I'm happy to do that. Everyone plays out their daddy issues on me, bans me, and all the rest. And I love having those conversations. We need to have them. Ultimately, I would suggest to you that you consider the church. And
I'm already a member of the Orthodox Church. I don't want to go to a papist.
Fine.
Like,
I have no problem. I'm not going to sit there and try to evangelize you to Catholicism. I would say you're in a good place. I would say go to your parish priest.
You get one follow-up. Go ahead with your follow-up.
If I'm going, I already trust my family. I already trust the church. My church, at least. And above it all is God. But like, your system, I don't believe allows me to even defend myself, because you brought up things about the Second Amendment and everything like that, and the First Amendment.
Yep.
How can I trust my community if there's going to be things that are going to be deemed too far or whatever else? Like, if I can't even get to if I can't even like question certain things at that point or whatever, then how can I trust anything to be handled honestly or whatever? Because you can start deeming anything as like, oh, this is absurd. How could you bring this up? You're just a traitor, an enemy, a big T word, a terrorist or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I thought I put my trust into this whole system, and now I'm being branded as this. What?
Yeah.
It's like,
I understand it's tough, but all I'm saying to you, Big Hoss, is don't retreat into a victim mentality and cry about it with other people who are getting further and further paranoid. I'm not suggesting you're doing that, but I'm saying go to your priest, work within groups that do have something to say in your town, in the country. The Orthodox Church needs people like you to, I believe, to help negotiate a peace. Rob laughs at the concept of peace. You don't think?
No, I laugh at you telling the Orthodox Church what they need to do. That's what I'm laughing at.
Yeah, well, I do think that Christians owe it to themselves and to the world, and I'm sure Big Hoss agrees with me, and doesn't like this disgusting dismissal of young people. This sounds like a sincere person. This is someone you should engage with, Rob. And Jim Bob too.
Again,
let me help you.
If I could respond, because I think most of the questions will be to Ben.
I think you could,
because he's a maniac.
But sitting there bitching about the government.
Shut up, Ben. Let him respond.
There's so much projection. So Jim Bob got him to admit, basically, he has a paranoia about paranoia. He also has daddy issues about daddy issues, apparently. No one has daddy issues. If you watch my community and what I do and what other people do that have a healthy skepticism of the government, it's not because we have daddy issues. It's because we could see provably corrupt things and provably inept things, and we refuse to allow those things to continue. We think that we should speak up and stop those sorts of things from occurring. That's what we believe in. You continually speak to you're just a mishmash of cliches and parodies of yourselves and contradictions and empty platitudes. That's all you're doing. Speak to your
let me ask you a question.
Please, let me finish. You just had a long opportunity where you were speaking back and forth for the caller.
Rob, let me ask
Anyways, right? So you can see that that's what he could ask the question afterwards. I don't care, but you can see that that's what's going on here, and to the point where, right, he's like giving advice, like he's coming off trying to sound like a sage. Like he's literally talking about an authoritarian regime that says you shouldn't be allowed to defend yourself against them or against anyone else. You shouldn't be allowed to have free speech unless it's speech that the authoritarians say you could justify. And just like every authoritarian in history, they think it'll be okay because if the people that share their beliefs are in charge, then everything will be copacetic. But it won't be, even if it's within Catholicism. For example, Nancy Pelosi, I believe, is Catholic. She tries to take communion. She supports abortion. What happens when his Catholic authoritarianism exists and says, okay, now we interpret Catholicism as saying abortion's okay. And by the way, you don't have a right to disagree. And by the way, you don't have the right to defend yourself. Then what happens? What does Ben do in that world? He says, well, you're cucking. You have daddy issues if you complain about that. He just assumes that his version of Christianity will be the authoritarianism. I think that will always lead to tyranny in the long road, which is why we should have a system that maximizes thoughts and ideas and discussion. You're muted, Andrew.
Ben, before I unmute you to let you respond, I want to give the caller the grace of saying thank you so much for calling in and asking your question. We appreciate it. Have yourself a good night.
I really appreciated speaking my voice and all that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kind of sound like Jared Taylor.
Now, Ben, go ahead.
And I love to have Big Hoss on my channel. I don't ban anybody, no matter how antagonistic they are to me.
If you shill to fucking try it, dude, you're on thin fucking ice.
Well,
you shill to set up shit. You shill that shit.
Yes, where do I go? And I told him he's welcome to come to my channel. I'm not allowed to say that.
You're welcome to say that, but don't be setting up debates and shit in my chats. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Private echo chamber or privately in his channel, free speech, but an echo chamber through the government. That's what he wants. He wants the government to say that.
Well, Rob, shut up now. Shut up now. You asked like 5 questions at once. This is a classic technique. Andrew knows what this is. It's called the Gish Gallop. So I can't even freaking remember all the different things. Why don't you just say one thing and I'll answer it? Right? Because this is an easy technique.
You interrupt and you won't answer. Right? You talk in a big chunk. You talk in a big chunk. I did as well. There was no back and forth because you're incapable of engaging in that back and forth. So if the way I have to respond is if you talk in a big chunk, I talk in a big chunk.
You're just crying.
No, I'm not. You're the one saying, you literally are just crying going, you asked too many questions. Why didn't you just say one thing? That's literally what you just did.
Okay. We got the next caller in. Appreciate the call in. Go ahead with your question.
Sure. Question is for Ben. I'll try to avoid or just ignore what Ben just said there, which is just obviously false about Rob sucking at debate. But Ben, my question for you is, you said that some things cannot be said by law, right? So what happens if I just keep saying shit? Like, what do they do to me?
Well, since there are things that you can't say by law right now, right?
Mm-hmm. What happens if you're saying things that would otherwise be First Amendment violations, right? I'm asking about these particular new laws you want.
What happens when you violate your free speech laws now? There are laws that are put in place.
I'm asking. I think you're confused. There
would be laws.
I think you're confused about the question, Ben. Right? You want to revise the First Amendment. You said you wanted to revise it so that more things cannot be said by law, right? I'm asking you, if I say these things, what happens?
Well, then there are consequences.
What are the consequences? Is what I'm asking you, Ben.
Well, it would depend on what it was that you were saying.
Sure. So what is an example of something that's legal to say now that you would want to illegalize, and what would be the consequence?
I gave you 3 examples. I think that pornography should be made illegal. I think obscenity should be illegal, although we have to be careful with that. And I also, what was the third one? And blasphemy. Yeah, those would have to be defined carefully. Actually, there are laws.
The question was what was the consequence? The question was what was the consequence? What's the consequence if I'm obscene? Well, like if I say fuck you, Ben, what happens then? If I say fuck you, Ben.
Let's say you make let's say you make pornography, which actually there is a law. It's just
I thought you said there were 3 examples.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm talking about your obscenity example. I'm asking
if you create pornographic material.
How do I get you to answer the question? You said there were 3 examples. One was pornography. One was obscenity. I'm asking you, okay, what if I'm obscene? If I say "fuck you, Ben," right? Yeah. Ben's a dumb fuck. What happens to me? What's the punishment?
The punishment right now is that I say you're being uncharitable, synth. And
I'm
you're a
asking you
prick.
under your law, dumbass. I'm asking you under your fucking law, Ben.
No, I know what you're doing.
Ooh.
Why don't you?
What's the punishment?
Why don't you? Right, real funny. Troll the
Nothing
internet.
funny. Nothing is funny about it. I think that you're.
This is Ben.
Grow up,
If
buddy.
I could jump in,
Get out from under your avatar. Use your name. Come out like a
Whoa.
man and say something.
I'm on the
Don't
channel the
try to-
fucking time, Ben.
Abel,
Everyone
you
knows.
know.
Thanks, Abel.
I caught
Thanks
little
for criticizing
queers like you
pseudonyms, Abel.
for 10 years.
Got me with
buddy.
that one.
Just so you know,
Loserville, dude.
Synth has debated with almost every single major right-wing figure online, and he uses his face, not an avatar. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Come out and be a
I'm
man.
not gonna plug my camera
again,
up for you.
But
So I'll call
Ben,
it.
in all honesty,
Hard
trying
for
to
you?
be charitable here,
Much
and let me
work?
tell you where some of this, if I could real quick tell you where some of this hostility is coming from. You're making big claims. You're making big changes. You're talking about using our criminal system to punish people that say things that you don't think should be allowed to be said anymore.
No.
And so
No.
constantly me throughout the debate, and Synth here was saying, like, can you give us specifics? Can you tell us specifically what this, because you're advocating for a radical change and you
Yeah.
can't give us specifics. You
I
can't.
gave you 3
You
specifics.
say he's
and this
trolling.
little prick
No,
over
no.
here
Ben,
tried to
please,
use it to
real quick, let me
insult
finish.
Rob,
You
can you
gave
admit
3
that? Can you admit that,
Ben,
Rob?
please.
This little
You
prick
gave
over here,
specifics.
and I am using obscenity. This little
Ben.
prick over here tried to make a little funny joke.
Ben.
right?
I'm just asking,
Please.
what's the
You're the Ben.
No, you
please,
weren't.
What's
let
the
me
law- what's the
finish.
consequence,
Do you see,
Ben?
do you
This is
see why
what
the
you
back
are.
and forth's
Come out
impossible?
from
Do you
under
see
your
it's not possible at all with
avatar.
Ben. Ben won't engage at all.
Listen, Ben. Okay, you gave the specific on what shouldn't be
I don't
said.
think there
Now
should be
he's
massive
asking the
obscenity
specific.
laws.
Please be quiet. He's asking what is the specific. Okay, we're evaluating your future world where obscenity is now illegal. He's saying, so what's the punishment? And you're like, well, that's trolling. How is that trolling? That's
I
your
didn't say that's
plan.
trolling. No, he wanted to say an obscenity to me. I
What's
taught
the
high
punishment,
school.
Ben?
I dealt with
What's the
little
punishment,
assholes
Ben?
like this for 10
Ben,
years.
what's the
I
punishment?
get it. You work in
What's the
an
punishment,
insult
Ben?
in your so-called question. I
Ben,
don't
what's the
think. I do
punishment?
think. I don't like. Okay, so I'm going to develop an entire legal system for you. I would say that if you're online, late
Entire
night-
legal system, one law,
Yeah, right.
one punishment. What's the penalty?
Well, let me ask you something, Cynthia. You're a young man, is that right?
No,
Can't
you're wrong.
answer. He can't answer.
I'm
You
a
think
300.
Rob
I'm a
is relevant?
300-year-old.
You think
What?
Rob? Oh, funny.
Yeah, I
You're
just
a
want
funny
to.
guy,
I want to answer my
kid.
question. Thank you. Debates. If you think about it, debates are basically prop comedy, and you're kind of the prop,
You
right?
think that Rob? Okay.
I just want an answer to my question.
No, you don't. You want to be. A
I would
little
love
prick.
one. I'm just asking, what's the punishment?
You need to get in. Your punishment is for you, for your behaviors. You need to call your father up and apologize for being a little prick.
You can't answer the question.
Tell
You
him
want it
that
as a
your son
law,
is
but
being
you
a
don't want
little
to. What's the penalty?
Tell
How
all
many
the
years in
teachers you've been a
prison?
little prick
How
to
many
you,
years in
that you
prison do I get for
apologize
this,
for.
Ben?
I also
that's
like the
your punishment.
hypocrisy
Sid.
here.
Take your
I know.
medicine. Call
Then
your
take
father
Take your
and
pills,
apologize for
Grandpa.
being a
Take your
little
fucking
infant
pills.
prick to him all these years.
Imagine the hubris it takes.
Father
Please,
to a son.
please.
Right? You want to play
Imagine
your daddy
the
used to
hubris
do
it
out
takes.
on me. Play him out on your daddy.
I'm just going to
Since
keep
dad
talking
is
over
here,
Ben. Fuck him.
he's
It's
gonna
so
call
worthless
you and
dealing. We just
apologize
keep
for
going
being a
on in
little
this soapbox. I'll just talk over him. I could talk for hours and hours. It won't matter. Now, imagine the hubris it takes to not only say that we should eliminate the First and Second Amendments, but there are certain things like obscenity that should be made illegal, and then continue not be able to define what the punishment would be, and continue to engage in obscenities yourself over and over on a platform where people could see. The hubris it takes to say that that should be criminal, but he's going to go ahead and do that, and then at the same time say, but if you're against this, you have daddy issues and something. It makes no sense. He's literally, I think that he's trying to
daddy
get
issues.
control to get
Guarantee
people
it.
or something because
Hey, Synth, on
lot
a
of
1 to
people-
10, how
I'm
well
just-
do you get along with your dad? On a 1
10.
to 10.
Anything.
10,
That's not
10, 11.
not true.
I'm gonna bump that number up. That's not true.
Tap,
That's
tap.
not.
It goes to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
Spinal
that's
tap
not-
style. Just what's the counter argument, Ben? Just what's the punishment? That's all I'm asking.
I told you what your punishment is, Synth.
What's the
No, no,
punishment
little
if somebody
prick.
obscenes?
Now,
Be real with
address,
me.
I'll address Rob's point because it's a real point.
So true.
Yes, it is. I understand you could say that I was using obscenity, but I did say that I think an online forum where there's adults, it should be lax. I mean, you know this, Rob, that someone says, what's pornography, right? And it's a difficult question to answer, right? You know, it's the Supreme Court thing. You know it when you see it. Okay. Now, is obscenity, are we going to say every little swear in a locker room is going to be illegal? No, we're not going to, because we as a culture have, you know, a standard. But when say someone says something utterly rude to, let's say, a little girl or something like that, yes, I think that the police should say, you can't do that. Or to a police officer too, I think.
We already have laws that do that.
Yeah, I know they're not really very much enforced, and it's tricky. I know that police officers use.
I appreciate the call in. You get one last follow up before we got to move on to the next caller.
Go ahead. I got one last I guess one last question, right? Completely original question that I haven't asked before. Hey Ben, if I'm obscene, what's the punishment for that? That's my last question. How many years in prison do I get for being obscene?
If you act disrespectful to people, you should apologize to them. That's
your
punishment.
I'm not gonna get an answer to that one. I love you, Ben. You're a great guy. You're really entertaining to have on the channel.
Thank you.
And I only mean that half sarcastically. You have a good one, Andrew.
YouTube. See you later.
Little towel snap from Synth.
Okay.
What an insolent little prick.
We're in line here. The next one was OG Snoop. Listen, Kaz and Chase, I know you guys have been waiting patiently. I appreciate it. We are going to get you through. OG, you're up. Go ahead.
Howdy, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep. We'd love to see you.
Not today, I'm sorry, Mr. Fed.
Okay, no problem.
But Rob, you have a sense of distrust in the government, yet you still fly that ugly star and bars behind you. How can you justify distrusting it while still flying and having pride for the flag?
The symbol of what the stars and bars stand for, and the symbol of what the United States is, which is a country based on freedom, based on individualism, is the foundational principle that is the most effective of any country that's ever existed. Corrupt people within those institutions have bastardized the mission of that and engaged in corruption by doing things that, you know, Ben cheers for, authoritarianism, right? And saying that you can't criticize us, you should be censored. It's satanic to criticize big daddy government. You have daddy issues if you point out our corruption. Those sorts of things have bastardized what the actual agenda was. Not to default to entertainment, but it's like in the beginning of the movie Gladiator, where Marcus Aurelius asks Maximus, he says, "What is Rome to you?" And he basically talks about how inspiring Rome is to him. That, to me, is what the United States is. It is this inspiration of, you know, freedom, the First Amendment, of, you know, sort of the Bill of Rights protections.
Can I ask you a question?
Let me finish.
No,
Ben, you can freely ask the question.
Cut it down.
You could, right? So that's what it means. Absolutely, we should have a healthy distrust of the people. In fact, that was a foundational principle of this country, that our founders understood that people rightfully should be distrusting. Thomas Jefferson said there should be a revolution every 20 years. Now, I'm not calling for violence or a revolution of that sense, but what I am saying is when we see blatant corruption, that we shouldn't just blindly accept it because we have some sort of religious duty to accept that corruption. We should call it out. But that does not mean that I'm not a nationalist or that I'm not a private.
No, Ben. Piss off, Ben. Piss off.
Now you're asking for a punishment.
No.
Too,
okay. So Rob, the you recognize the United States, its historical foundation was built on distrust of the government. However, it was a distrust not of their government, it was of a foreign government. Are you saying in some regards that the distrust of this government right now is some sense a foreign entity that you're distrusting in?
No, that's because if you read what the founding fathers like Jefferson were writing, they also understood, because they lived under a tyrannical government, that all governments, when given power, have a tendency to eventually become tyrannical. So they were setting up a system where they themselves, as the elected leaders of that system, would have had a healthy distrust levied against them. They were trying to maximize individualism, and they wanted a system where distrust was built in so people could have free speech to question them. They could have a Second Amendment to defend against a tyrannical government. So it's not saying, the founding fathers were only distrusting of the British. That's not true. The founding fathers set a system up and wrote quite extensively saying you should also be distrusting of our government. You should be distrusting of all governments. And so we are going to try to do our best under the assumption that, like all governments and all authority figures, if left unchecked, eventually become tyrannical. All of them, whether it be governments, whether it be institutions, whether it be individuals within the church, if they go unquestioned with unbridled authority for such a long period of time,
it's too long.
They'll eventually become corrupt. So that's what
it's not your call, man. It's not. This call is for Rob. It's not your call. Let the caller finish. This is the caller's time, not the Ben Thorp's time. OG, you got a final follow up if you want to make it.
Cool. So, Rob, what cultural connection do you actually have with the people out there on the East Coast and the Washington, D.C. and the New England belt, your Philadelphias, your Bostons, your New Yorks? Like, what culture similarities do you actually share with people like fucking Ben in Rhode Island?
Not many.
Love Rhode Island.
And there's a good argument for balkanization. Like, politics is downstream of culture, and there is a time where we could see that you should probably balkanize, because there are large swaths of this country that are just incapable of coexisting. I'll give you a couple issues for me. Like, anyone who advocates abortion at like 8-9 months, that is so disgusting. I can't break bread with them. Like, I could deal with someone that I disagree with on Medicare for all or even financing Ukraine, but aborting 8-9-month-old
But aren't
babies
these the
is
people
disgusting.
that play the highly more
say
influential role of the
over-civilization.
federal government?
So in some senses, yes, but that doesn't mean that we should abandon
Caller,
the government.
Caller, we
Right.
do have to move on to our other callers. We'll never get through
That's
them all.
fine.
Do you have some words
That's
of
fine.
wisdom for us, OG?
Oh, no, I think we had a pretty good discussion there. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, you
Can
too,
I ask
man.
what-
Thanks for the call.
Can I ask Rob one quick question?
No.
What has you and
Chase,
your group
Chase,
ever
shut
done
up, shut up, Ben.
positively?
Shut up, Ben.
Rob? What
Chase,
have they ever done?
shut up,
positively?
Ben. Shut up. Chase, you're up. Go ahead.
Ben, I wanted to call to just talk about my father.
Finally.
Can you talk me through this? Okay, never mind, I guess. I was just trying to I'm trying to find some common ground, but
Wait,
anyway.
this is for
Are you
a question
talking
for
to me?
Ben. Yeah, he's asking you if you will address his daddy issues.
All right, so
I don't really know. Sure. What's your problem with your father? What's your problem with your father?
I'm just playing with you. When it comes to your question, to your standard of following through with authority, you think we should submit to the Roman Catholic Church?
Yeah, I do believe every person should submit to the church's authority, which is limited. It's a limited authority.
Okay, so like the Fourth Lateran Council, when the Roman Catholic
Okay.
Church said we should eradicate all non-Christian believers, but then later
that's-
another pope came out and said that, or Vatican II said that Hindus worship the same God. Which authority should we listen to in that?
Either of those things are true, but I get it. Neither of those
Okay.
things are true. Look into it. Look at what Catholics say about those things. I know, and we can say Galileo was also. You can say all these things that aren't true, but I would just suggest that you read more carefully. Look
So
at
I
both
should
sides
do
of an issue.
So I should do investigation, like you told
Yeah.
Rob we shouldn't.
Yeah, I would say the way you should investigate is go to your local Catholic church and talk to the priest there. That's right.
Yeah, but the Vatican II is your
Or you
guys'
come to my
dogma.
channel if you'd like. If Andrew doesn't think
I'm
so
not.
good.
I'm good.
Well,
And then
doesn't seem like you are that good because you're asking me questions.
okay. And then I had another one, but I think I forgot it, so I'll hop off. Have a good one, guys.
Hey,
Can I ask you a question, Chase?
wait, before Chase goes, I just want to let everybody know Chase does have a debate coming up right here, his debut on the Crucible. We're all looking forward to that. He shaved his beard into a cross just for the occasion, right? Anyway, base
You have a beautiful
Chase,
door back there. I love it.
words of wisdom before you go.
Just submit to whatever it is I say is true and don't look into it because that's paranoia.
All right.
Good
We
advice.
appreciate the words of wisdom. Thank you so
Real
much.
thoughtful, Chase.
And Casimir, he's our last caller for the night. Make sure you
Yes,
get those
how you
super
doing,
chats
buddy?
in. We'll be getting to those next. And I got a feeling that these guys are just not quite done sparring just yet. Go ahead, Kaz.
Hello, guys. My question is mostly for Rob Noerr. Just a couple of thoughts. I remember reading that Aristotle claimed that there are such beings as natural slaves, maybe like robots, that require a master because they cannot set their own goals or follow through on them. And similarly, I guess children are not yet, by being children, are not yet fully rational actors. So they have guardians assigned to them to make sure that they set proper goals and follow through on them. Now, when you're talking about rational adults, who is above a rational adult? Well, in your system of coordinates, it's God. So the God, through the church and the tradition, sets the ultimate goals for the rational adults. Now, I don't see in all of these equations any room for the nanny state, at least in terms of moral priorities like obscenity and pornography and all these other, proper moral Christian prescriptions. Why should you trust another man to be your daddy when you have daddy above?
That's excellent. That's exactly the point that I was trying to make. It's difficult to kind of have a sensible back and forth, but that's exactly the thrust of what I was getting to. One of the things,
Such a
which
baby,
is,
Rob.
which is that the idea that humans are fallible, even if you, and this is different right now. I mean, I think, Kaz, even though we've had back and forths, I don't believe in the total abolishment of government, but I share your belief that individualism and freedom is a value that we really need to have first and forefront in our mind, right? But Christian or non-Christian, right? I think that we could see that individuals will have the ability, it's inevitable, to interpret sort of morality, even if it's just Christian versus Christian, in slightly different ways. And there is no one person that could claim to truly have divinity that speaks for all Christians. Well, they could claim it, like the Pope could claim that, but other people will disagree. And so the question becomes, even if we say that religion is infallible or God is infallible, the human that is telling you about that is fallible. And so therefore we should never say we have blind faith and trust, and we shouldn't be allowed to question the human being that is bringing us our code of ethics, whether it be through religion or whatever system you go through, humanism or whatever. So if it is true that we say that we look to a higher authority such as God, where does a nanny state come in? I think that government needs to exist to function in some sort of limited way, but it should be vastly limited. What Ben is suggesting here is that we should, and it's very dangerous actually when you listen to what he's saying. He is the enemy of thought. That's who he isolates as the enemy. He says all evil starts with thought. Therefore, we need to eradicate thought. And then he backtracks and he meal-mouths and whatever it does what he can. But that's one of the most authoritarian positions I've ever heard. And inevitably, even if the right person's put in charge of that now, inevitably, history is undefeated in showing us if you give someone absolute power, it will absolutely corrupt. And so eliminating the First Amendment and eliminating thoughts that you find to be dangerous in the way that Ben is suggesting will be a disaster.
I have a bit of a follow-up. I don't know, maybe Ben Thorp would like to answer that follow-up as well. I can concede for the sake of argument that there are certain functions that it's hard to imagine, a very complex government or a state not providing at this point. But on issues like speech and pornography and other issues like that, I see an impediment from, from this federation that we have interfering in our affairs, because societies that handle those issues internally through ostracism, through community influence, they handle them seemingly perfectly, or at least much better than us around here, right? If you were to curse in public in the middle of a discussion in one of these religious communities, you would not, you would get a talking to, and you would have to listen, because you would lose half of your business at least. You would lose, your clients. There is a system of control that exists that you've entered voluntarily. You can always leave, and it doesn't require having some goon from some other place outside of your community coming in and enforcing that for you. So that's the part where I don't see a connection. And people are throwing the word libertarian around very loosely, but libertarianism, in my view, is a very strict, narrow branch of ethics that doesn't deal with any of these prescriptions. Like, I have no say whether pornography is right or wrong. I can just say whether I'm justified of killing you because you engage in pornography, or enslaving you in some capacity. Now, if you agree to that as a contract, sure, like anyone agrees when they live in a community. They either literally sign something, or they know from their church father that if they keep doing bad things, they'll get excommunicated, removed from the community, removed from the communion, whatever the etymology is, right? So I don't, like, if you have this mechanism of removing repeat offenders and people that don't submit to the authority of the community, why do you need this next this? Why do you need Caesar basically when you have Jesus and the church?
Can I take it? I actually think the point you're making here is a great one about social enforcement. I do believe that there's an absolutely necessary element that's largely missing from our society. Who hasn't, as a man, been in situations?
It's missing because it's replaced by the state, though, no?
No, but okay, just let me finish my point. Who hasn't been in situations where you see something that you wish you could say something, but because our culture has this, well, I'm not going to say anything. We don't have a shared heritage. You can't do it. And I do believe that, but the problem with that, you say we've lost that and other cultures haven't. What do those other cultures have? They have a shared framework that the society as a whole agrees to.
Okay, I'll answer the question. There's a couple things that I want to talk about here. The first is, I don't think, regardless of what my religious beliefs are, that those beliefs should be enough to enact through force of violence law through our government. I think that laws could be agreed upon when there are reasons for their existence outside of just my belief in the morality of them. So the case to make pornography illegal, I would be unpersuaded that, well, the Bible says such. That is not a persuasive argument, even if I believe in the Bible. A more persuasive argument, which I probably still wouldn't agree with, would be there is actual, well, I agree with this, there is actual real world harm to people that is caused by pornography. And so we have to, at some point, limit people's freedom when the massive amounts of harm that's being caused because of that freedom outweigh. I am very, very, very on the side of freedom in thinking that your government has to pass an incredible threshold before they do that. Because if not, if we just say the government has the right to restrict your freedom if there's any amount of harm, well, then I won't be allowed to eat a cheeseburger tomorrow because I'm fat. And they would say, well, for your own health. So obviously there are strict limitations. We could agree on what those limitations are, but I'm unpersuaded by, well, the Bible says it, therefore that's law. I think that is a bad system because inevitably what happens is people will interpret in different ways, or people might not share your religious beliefs that are elsewise good citizens, and they then find themselves under the boot of authoritarianism that will become drunk with power and continue to enforce their religious view on others with more and more force as time goes on, which will lead to a tyranny. To the second point.
Hang on, because Rob, clearly you're out of touch with the young people who are young people and you don't understand what the young people want, right? Why don't you get it? What's wrong with you? You're way out of bounds here. The young people want totalitarianism, Rob.
Right.
Can't you get with the fucking program here, buddy?
They actually
listen,
do.
I think here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. They recognize that the current system screwed them over. And so what they're saying is, thank God Ben Thorp came along to tell me the problem is criticizing this current system. I'll say this. Ben is absolutely right to criticize me. I don't have a huge following. I don't. I do this for entertainment. I work in the home healthcare system. That's what I do. I'm a dad. Like, that's what I do. I do this for entertainment. I don't have a big following. That's absolutely true. But I have a sneaking suspicion that young people that might not like me have no fucking love for Ben Thorp either. I don't see people leaving, the Ariana Grande concert early, like, gotta get home. Ben Thorp streaming tonight to tell us that we have daddy issues. Sorry, not very persuaded by that, Ben. I'm sure you're raking in the young people, dude.
I actually do. Rob, you got to admit, if you look at the optics here.
Yeah, but I mean, he does, but it's only because they want to have sex with your daughter, Ben. That's the only reason you get them in your show. They want to have sex with your daughter, you gross fuck. You pin her up there. You literally dangle her there so that young men will come to your show, right? And you're steering in young men who want to have sex with your daughter. They're
attracted to her. What's wrong with that? She's an attractive young woman. She has
a
lot of
so someone who's talking about outlawing obscenity and pornography and stuff.
No obscenity.
I dangle my daughter out there because people are attracted. That's fucked up. Like, that's legit fucked up.
Why is it fucked up, Rob? What I'm doing over here is a lot more attractive than what you're doing over there.
Let me tell you. You want some harsh truth?
The law of optics, Rob. Take the hat off.
This is my opinion.
T-shirt off. Wear a real shirt and lose some weight.
This is my opinion. Dude, I don't know that I would be talking about people's image there, Ben. Like, please. But this is really like to hear you say, hey, so what? I put my daughter out there because people think she's attractive to get viewership. Yeah. I'll just tell you my honest opinion of you from this is my only interaction. I haven't watched much of your material. You are desperate for views. You are desperate. You're trolling. You're grifting. Like you're admitting to dangling your daughter out there to get views. You're trying to say stuff
and then come
up as this.
It's working.
It's not. I don't care if it works or not. I don't give a shit if there's only two.
You want to get out of that closet, Rob?
No, I don't. Let me explain. Ben,
you want to quit your job?
I don't care. There are many things. I'm smart enough to know. Please
Hollywood
shut the fuck up, Ben. It doesn't work if we're both talking.
Rob, that's enough of
please,
your long speeches.
Please shut up. It doesn't work if you're talking as well. Ben, it doesn't work if you're talking as well.
Rob, this sucks.
It doesn't work, Ben. It doesn't work if you keep
on. Right. Hang on. One of you, hang on. Quick, very quick, 20 seconds each. Summarize your points to each other.
On this issue, I'll summarize this. I could have sold out. I could have been a QAnon person. I could have spoke to a crowd and got me viewers. I didn't. It is not worth me selling out for a couple meager views. Ben, I'm happy that it's not only worth you selling out, but dangling your daughter out there because people find her attractive and you're going to lecture us on obscenity and morality. I'm glad you think it's fucking worth it. I hope the money's helping.
Well, your assumption is that I'm selling out. I'm not selling out. I absolutely believe in what I'm talking about. And if my daughter brings young men in and then they talk to me and they go through their father issues like these little pricks that Andrew brings in to do their thing, they'll eventually see that I care about them.
Yeah. It's like a brothel, right? It's like a brothel. You put her out there for the young men to come in and then you could take their money. It's like a brothel.
You're a grifter. You're fucking,
like a brothel, right?
You're a fucking grifter. You're a grifter. It's despicable. It's terrible. That's despicable.
What's despicable about it? You want to come in with a t-shirt on and a hat on and you're like, your background sucks and you babble too much. You want to be irrelevant and have a hobby. Okay. I want to win in life, right? The Christian religion took over Europe. I wanted to help it to redo that. You just want to babble and to go out, cry about how Ben Thorpe's your enemy.
I don't even know you. I won't think about you. I don't know you. You get off on thinking that you're like this big enemy. I don't know you. You're beneath me, and that's okay.
An awful lot.
I'm not crying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people that are beneath me. I'm beneath some people.
Crying.
But what I'm just saying, all of that I forgive. All of that, please shut the fuck up.
No,
shut the fuck up.
No.
Please shut the fuck up. Just shut up.
Rob, you talk
Andrew,
too much.
You're gonna have to mute one of us because I'm not gonna leave this guy fucking fully over me. I'm not his daughter that he can show off with you. That's not who I am.
We're not getting
anywhere. I'm not his daughter.
I let it go for a little while because I do like the blood sports. I do them myself. Rob's a big time blood sport debater. He does them too. He doesn't mind rolling around in the mud a little bit. I don't mind it either.
I love Rob.
But there comes to a point where we do have to kind of like break that up, right?
Well, you asked me about optics. I said
now our poor caller has been in here listening this entire time. The poor bastard, right? Unbelievable that this poor caller has been ignored this way. We have been poor hosts. I'm very sorry about that, Kaz. Go ahead with the last of your question.
I just remember the proverb. I don't know if it's related to what's going on here.
Thou shalt not pimp out your daughter.
I hear that it's much easier to stand in a falling elevator.
Don't bring her on. Have some fun.
Anyway, what was I about? Right, obscenity.
Bring her on.
So I do agree
bring the attractive female in your life on, Rob.
Yeah,
despicable. You're fucking despicable.
It actually is probably the physics track. In any case, I think that I like the idea of obscenity laws. Maybe not through like the state, but through some kind of a contract, because one of the key things Hans Hermann Hoppe brought up is that we should physically remove, or we should like evict from our communities all the proponents of democracy and communism. To not have their insidious ideas pollute, the fabric of society. And one of those ideas is the idea that McCarthy did something wrong. The only thing he did wrong is that he didn't do enough. He got stopped. Should have continued. Should have purged all the communists, all the active Soviet spies from the U.S. government at the time. So I think, we have a different perception of what is obscene.
Is there a question
it might cause some problems.
Right. Yeah, I like the McCarthy thing's interesting. Like, I'm sorry to kind of like I have more to say about Ben here. Perceptually,
I'm sure you do. More scolding,
dude.
See, this is where the daddy issues come in. You have your mother's
It has nothing
anger.
to do. Daddy
Yes,
issues. You have daughter issues.
Why would you be scolding a man?
Before I go, I welcome a debate.
Say hello.
I welcome a debate on
it's okay
your
to be a man,
perception
Rob.
of libertarianism being incoherent. Right, we've had one with respectable people like Posh. We might have Posh was focused on Christianity. We might have another one. No,
I debated Fabian. I debated Fabian Liberty.
End it. Find something else.
Whatever. I'm sure he wasn't talking to you, Ben. I debated Fabian and last username on this. I'd be happy to debate you on it, Casimir.
Yeah, sure. Rob, we should sometimes. I think
I'd be happy.
We might. With us, the disagreement is much more narrow, so it might not be as interesting. But when people throw that word, I don't think they know what that word means. Like, they still have assigned the value of liberty into it. Now, liberty, natural outlaw, degenerate, all of those things, they exist, and they tend to attach themselves to the idea of freedom, but they don't have the discipline, and you can't have freedom without discipline, I believe. So I think it's sort of incoherent. It's sad. Maybe we should abandon that word.
I got one more.
Many words.
I got one more caller.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
But before the call, I just want to say that I remember one time I was at a party and I saw someone get in a fight because their insult to the other person was, "Look at this fucking guy in his shirt." That's how far we've sunk with Ben Thorp. Look at this guy with his shirt and hat, he says about me, and my shitty background. Ben, can you slide to the right a little so we can see the washer and dryer there? Oh, what a hell of a background. It's actually despicable. It just shows how nonsensical you are. And I do have to say, I don't mind having disagreements with people and things like that, but the juxtaposition of your faux morality while encouraging people not to criticize corruption, while basically saying, yeah, I throw my daughter out there for views because I think she's attractive. It's fucking despicable. It is actually despicable. It makes me dislike you as opposed to just disagreeing with you. I dislike and accusing someone of having daddy that points out that you shouldn't objectify your daughter like that is just more
objectify her. She is objectively beautiful.
All right, guys, we got to move on to the last caller. Words of wisdom from Kaz.
Female, Rob.
I think that washer and dryer will come in use immediately after the debate. I think it's a very utilitarian solution to keep them close.
I see.
I'm not sure what that means, Cass.
Samantha Savage, can you hear me?
Hey, hear the ladies, see?
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, that's not a lady.
Yeah, neither was your mom, but I'm not complaining. But here's the thing. I just love this theocratic fucking we should base our laws off of some book that I believe in rhetoric. Like, this is the dumbest, most retarded shit.
I didn't say that.
No. Just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up, Ben. You're
Samantha.
No, shut up. You're retarded.
Savage,
I'm speaking.
You're behind.
No. You're way below me. And it's still a better background than your cheap-ass trailer washer and dryer. Okay, sit the fuck down, Ben. Shut up.
No, come out from behind your picture of a.
I'm all over the internet. Trust me. Rob knows who I am. Andrew, plenty of people.
Oh, you've been on that internet, boy.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't.
Just leave her ask the fucking question, okay?
So here we go.
There's no question. It's just insults.
Why do you think this rhetoric will? I believe because of my magical book, any different than like the hyper leftist. You should refer to me as washer and dryer because those are my pronouns because I believe that. What's the difference in that? Like, if you want to hold on. I'm not done. Okay, buddy, wait your turn.
Not your buddy.
If I wanted to hear a retard speak, I could walk into a loony bin. Just chill.
Well, I could make fun of you, I'm sure, if you came out from behind your picture of a Latina woman and stopped calling yourself Samantha.
That's fine.
Samantha X Savage.
Oh my God, I'm so triggered.
Why don't you be a man? What's your name? Bob, Bill?
Thanks, Abel.
Sure.
We appreciate it, Abel.
Ben Thorp is my name. I'll tell you why I'm named Abel also, but we don't have time for that.
It's okay, sweetheart. So like, what's the difference in that rhetoric based off of, well, I believe this magical, non-existent, non-provable thing, I should have it done my way. If I wanted to move to a theocratic country, I mean, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, they're doing that great. So like, why do you want to say this same rhetoric of like, I magically believe this, therefore it should be law, any different than leftist rhetoric of you have to believe this and we want to make this law? You're no better than some crazy lunatic leftist on the Bird app.
Okay, I'll answer that question because the Bible comes from God and the church came from God's incarnate Son who told us, who gave us the structure of the church and said it would be with us till the end of time.
Okay,
Is that a magic book?
why is your argument any better than, say, like a Muslim person comes over here and says, like,
Yeah.
we should implement, like, Allah and our laws? Would you
Right,
allow
I understand.
that? Would you allow that?
Because it's a better argument.
What's a better argument, Allah or God? Which God? What about the flying
Christianity.
monster?
Look into it, Samantha X.
Oh, trust me,
Savage.
I'm well aware.
Get out
and
from behind
I'm
your.
well aware of this.
Don't run around the internet.
I don't have
Go
to
to
run
your
around.
local priest and ask him about it.
Priest?
If you're a person in the Western world,
why
you
would I
have
go
to
to a
answer this
priest?
question. Don't keep interrupting. If you're a person in the Western world, you have this question about this man from Nazareth. Who is he, and should he be my Lord and Savior? It's a haunting question. You can say stupid stuff about magic book. You know that's not true. You know that's not how it's looked at.
Which
You've
magic
given
book?
yourself
The Book of Mormon? The Bible?
the Bible is
the
not a
Quran,
magic
the
book.
Torah?
Read the words of our Lord and tell me how he's wrong. He's right. And he'll tell you.
I'm not saying I disagree. Andrew is well aware, so is Rob. I have a Bible sitting on my desk. I am a person that goes. Hold on. But like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Okay, but why does that need to be made into law based off of like our fucking rules, rather than agreed upon set bound of rules that makes sense and that come to compromise through democratic debate?
How's that going? How's that going? That's the
It was
Enlightenment
going
Project.
Yes.
How's it going?
Do you know why it's not going so well? Because people like the left, right, are taking the same strategy
Oh,
you
now
are.
we're crying
and
about our brother on the left.
No. Fuck the
It's
left.
not
Fuck
because
the
of
right.
people like
no,
you,
you're
too?
no. Listen,
Bashing
you don't even know what
Christianity?
You don't even bashing Christianity has nothing to do with it. We can bash whatever we
it
want.
does have
That's
something
what's
to
great
do
about the
with it. You
First
shouldn't
fucking Amendment. I can say that. Okay.
Yeah, it's not so great.
Why is it not so great that I can?
He prefers the
criticize?
Dark Ages. He thinks the Dark Ages
Why
were
is it
better.
not so great that I can't criticize
It's
my
called
system of
medieval
government?
period, and it's not a utopia, and obviously would have to.
Okay,
be
so
changed,
have you
but
ever
yeah.
worked? Have you ever worked for anybody?
Yes, I have.
Well, judging by your trailer, you still do. Or you have a really shitty business, sir. So like, here's the thing.
That's a good
Don't
one.
you like when something is in charge of you?
Hey, Samantha.
It's really good.
Hey,
it's
Samantha.
really good. It's
Hey,
really
Samantha.
good. I'm gonna finish. But the quickest way to get me to
No,
shut
I
up is
don't
let me
think
finish
so
my
at this
point.
point.
I don't.
think-
I'm not gonna
no,
get talked over by somebody who makes like $27K a year.
Samantha. Hey, Samantha. Why don't you stop insulting me if you have a question?
You insult everybody else when they talk to you.
I don't know. I don't.
But you don't
insult
like it
them
when it's
unless
done to
they
you?
insult me. No,
Oh,
Samantha.
Why is the mean trans
Why don't
woman
you tell
mean to
me what
me?
your name is instead of hiding behind an icon of a Latina woman with eyes that are crazy? Why don't you
Wait, you're not calling out my
engage?
necklace on the avatar either? Wow, that's shocking. Anyway,
You've got problems, Samantha.
Oh yeah,
They're not
because-
your problems
All
that
right,
you're taking out
all
on
right,
me.
hang on. Caller,
but what's
you have the
wrong?
floor. We're gonna
What's
let you. We're gonna let you
Ask
wrap it
a
up.
respectful
so why do
question,
you hate-
and I will
why do-
give you a respectful answer.
I
tried
don't have to
answer
be
your
respectful to
question
people that have
and
the IQ of
tolerate
a
your
fucking pile of
unbelievable
semen on the floor.
insolent attitude towards me.
Okay,
But
shut up.
now it's your chance. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All
Anyway,
right.
what's
You're
wrong with
muted
having
for
a
right now
system?
until the caller can finish.
What's wrong with having a system where you can call out? So, like, when a government imposes laws that I feel are unjust or stupid or retarded or going too far, right? It's great to have that system where I can criticize that. And if you're saying that, like, fuck the phone, hold on. If you're saying that we cannot have like that system in place where we can have that talk, right, and be like, hey, what you're doing, government, is like retarded and bad and stupid. Like, you should stop this, and like have a system where we can speak out against that because you want to impose laws by the Bible. That's like wrong and stupid. Like, we should be able to, because even Christ criticized the church. Remember that? Christ criticized. So no. So if we are being more Christ-like
That's enough.
by
I got it.
criticizing-
I got it. Shut
Is
up now,
Are you sure?
Samantha.
Got it.
Samantha, enough. Okay. I got the question. The question is, should we have opportunities to speak? Yes, we should. Yes, we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't have opportunities to speak. We should. In churches, you should have an opportunity to speak. In the government, you should have an opportunity to speak. Yes. I'm not calling for some sort of exaggerated authoritarian statist regime.
Yes,
and
you
I was
are.
just,
Like,
I just was
literally.
talking. No, let me talk now, Samantha. And I was just telling Casimir there that I do think, right, most of this work should be done like it's being done right here, where I'm correcting you for your insolence, where men tell younger men who don't understand the rules of etiquette to be respectful. And they don't have to be respectful on the internet. You can say your stupid stuff. You can do this stuff, but you should come to my channel and apologize. I would appreciate it.
Well, come to your channel.
You
Apologize
just
for
invited Satan. Yeah, I'm telling you.
He's welcome to come. I don't ban
and,
people.
and Samantha will come.
Rob, this is your mother's energy again. You've
Samantha's
got to work
gonna
it
come,
out.
and God help you for that for what you just
Wait,
yourself.
Hold on, Ben. Where's your channel? Twitch?
YouTube. Ben Thorp, aka Abel.
Okay. Do you really want me to come on your channel?
I absolutely do, Samantha.
Do you
but I
wanna
would
keep
ask you
your
to be
channel?
respectful. I would ask you to be respectful.
Oh, that's cute.
All right,
Is it
caller,
cute, or is it
caller,
your
hang
basic
on. Words
duty?
of wisdom before you go, caller.
Words of wisdom to what? If Ben is that 75-year-old man in his trailer and haven't gotten any wisdom by now, like there's no help for him. Like he's fucking. It's too late, buddy. It's too late. Clean your fucking room. Read a Jordan Peterson book. Get your fucking life together. You're a fucking shitbag.
All right. Thanks so much for calling.
Samantha.
First time caller for Samantha. Thank you so much. We
First time
appreciate it.
caller, long time listener.
Yeah.
Samantha's giving me wisdom.
Oh yeah, Samantha's going to your channel, man.
No
Oh.
problem. I invite anyone.
Good luck.
Anyone's welcome to come to my
Yeah.
channel. I applaud young, alienated men like Samantha to come and talk it out with me. I know I'll be your daddy. And you can get angry at me and call me names and all that. And you can be sexually attracted to my daughter. It's fine. You're young.
I'll send you the link to the channel.
Going over this
Samantha
guy?
Banana.
Because all he gets is more of his mother.
Look, I have to go to
saying that sex is bad.
I gotta go to the supers now, guys. I'm sorry. People have been waiting really patiently.
Yeah.
You can still send them in as we're going. There might still be some back and forth in this still yet, right? We're
having a great debate, Andrew. Would you say we're having a great time?
Hang on, almost 2.5 hours. Let's get some ones in chat for Rob. You believe he stayed the course for 2.5 hours? Brutal.
Low energy, Rob. He's losing it.
No, it's not low energy. It's one thing to be with a total moron that deflects because they don't understand the topic. It's another thing to watch them then try to throw their daughter out as eye candy because they want a couple shillings. It's just fucking pathetic. And then to talk about morality, it's just pathetic. It's sad.
What's wrong with a beautiful girl helping her dad in her channel?
It's just very sad. You're clearly really trying hard to grift to get some, to get some eyeballs on you. I hope it's worth it.
Right. I'm trying to succeed, Rob. Are you trying not to succeed, Rob?
Hang on. First, I want to thank our members again. Everybody who became a member tonight. We appreciate it so much. Joe R. resub for 2 months. David resub for 2 months. We have a bunch of new members to the Crucible. We appreciate that as well. Make sure you go over and show Rob Noerr some love. You can show him some love on either Dono Chat, which I think today is his payday, in fact. And you can show him, yeah, that's right. Get the greed hands going.
You can send my family members out to get paid. Isn't that great?
So Bowtie tipped $13.37, says, tell me which of these is the craziest, but do it in the ultra position. Not exactly sure what he meant by that. So Wicked Wally tipped $5. Another epic chapter in Norse mythology, aka Abel's fans would be called Abelus if he had any. Engi Bengi or Engi Benji, whichever way you want to say it, asks Ben, should we completely defund the FBI? And I think he's wondering that because he thinks you might be a member of that organization.
Who do you think paid for the washer and dryer, guys? I'm not sure. Was this something about you have to take the ultra position on something?
No.
Part of that?
No. He wants to know, should we defund the FBI?
No.
Okay.
You
Rob,
need a
should we
national
defund the
law
FBI?
We should not only defund the FBI, the people in charge of it should be looked at criminally, and we should declassify all of the evidence of their corruption for the public to see. It should be eliminated day one. If
There's no national law enforcement agency?
No, there still would be. It just wouldn't be a national brown shirt Gestapo agency.
What would you call it?
People with daddy issues like you, people with daddy issues like you will bootlick them. We wouldn't have that anymore.
So you're just.
But we can't talk specifics because you can't keep up with that. So you'll just.
I'm asking you specifically whether you would have a national law enforcement agency.
Right. We would still have a national law enforcement agency. The members of the FBI at the high ranks would no longer be able to serve in any sort of government institution whatsoever. They should be investigated criminally. We should take that money create a new agency, give agency to state law enforcement, or give that money to state law enforcement agencies in the interim while we create this new one. You asked specifically what we should do. Now, do you want to talk specifically about the corruption of the FBI?
So you agree
or is that
with
just
me?
daddy
So
issues?
you agree with me?
Talk about it?
So you agree with me? We should
No,
eliminate
that's the
corruption
opposite.
in
Are
the
you so
FBI.
daft? Are you so daft that you
Caller
can't
said, should we
understand someone
defund
doing
the
the opposite
FBI?
of agreeing you? Someone doing the opposite of it. You said, no, we should not defund the FBI. I said,
Right.
not only should we defund it, we should disband it. That is the opposite of agreeing with you, Ben. Try to keep up.
Okay. On
not
to the
true.
next one. Neon Noerr for $11.15. We thank you for that, Neon. The mods were a little bit zealous. He did send in $20 so that Grace was no longer muted. I didn't mute her. I think some mods did, though. I disavow that. I did tell them not to. Only so much I can do during a live show.
Those mods are a little out of control.
Ben, do you believe nukes are real? I personally don't, says Neon Noerr.
Yeah, I've heard this, right? I have no idea what they're talking about. I believe in Hiroshima and Nagasaki where devastating bombs were dropped that I would call nuclear bombs. I have no idea why anyone would doubt that.
Well, those were atomic bombs, right? But Emmanuel for $5 says dangerous ideas. What about the dangers of having compromised authorities to evaluate those ideas, such as guidelines, evidence, criteria, and expert opinions, which negatively impact critical thought?
It's a danger. I understand authoritarianism is always a danger, but a complete lack of authority is a greater danger because then everyone can go and make up their own minds. Yeah.
I remind you what the topic of this debate was. We're not talking in some abstract hypothetical. We're talking about these institutions in power right now. I came prepared with a litany of evidence of the corruption and ineptitude that they have exhibited, which is why the default position should not be unending trust in them, that we should increase our skepticism given the situation
that's enough.
occurring right now.
That's nice and
Please
tight.
shut up. I'll talk how I like. You talk how you like and bring your daughter out. We
It's
have
boring.
different worldviews.
Boring. Yeah,
right?
it would be better.
You
have a
think
kid
it's
for that.
boring? That's fine. I don't give a shit what
sucks,
you
dude.
think as far as my talents, right? But what I'm saying it now, I lost my train of thought. So he
Good,
won't
lose
talk
it,
about
lose
those
it. Let's move
specifics.
on.
He won't talk about those specifics. He wouldn't talk about the topic. Instead, he wants to deflect to empty platitudes and things like that because he
We
has
just talked
no
about the
substance
FBI.
whatsoever.
This is specific. What's the problem? We talked about
Specific
the FBI.
evidence of corruption.
That's specific. No one wants to watch you go on the internet and look up some study or something. It's boring, Rob. People
We don't
want to
need
know.
study.
People want to, or whatever your statistics. People, this is boring. People
Don't
are
need
over
statistics.
this. They want to know what's at the meat, at the core. And I think you and I have two interesting positions, and we're getting to the core issue. Should we be more trusting or distrusting of government institutions and entities? Now, this has been a vigorous debate. It's been a successful debate. People have found it very stimulating. A lot of them with their
No,
daddy issues
has not been a
felt like they
successful
want to
debate
kill Ben
by
Thorp.
any metric.
I don't care.
It's been
Well, no one wants to hear
if I can just-
libertarian
Andrew,
debate between two libertarians.
If I can,
boring.
if I can just real quick, I'll just say this happens a lot in these debates when you're talking about a specific issue or a specific topic. If someone's unequipped to be able to deal with it, they want to broaden it out. And anyone could sound like some impressive guru or philosopher. Follow the Bible like in the way that I interpret, and we should. But as soon as you get into the specifics, like, well, what would the punishment be? Exactly what would be outlawed? He has no specifics on it. It's anyone could play this grift that he's doing. It's just, and I don't know if grift's the right word, but he's just shilling for money, and he clearly like has no substance to what he's saying. That's why he continually talks about style and things like, don't you want more views? Don't you want more money? I don't like your hat.
Rob,
I don't like your flag.
Rob,
It's just
so-
nonsense. This
Rob,
is a worthless debate.
Okay, Rob, would you admit? So then you would admit that it's working. I'm going to get a lot of money doing this.
I don't know. That's your attempt. I'm not going to follow you. I don't give a shit. You can become rich or become broke. I don't care. I wish you the best.
But
Like,
this
I
looks
think
like
what
someone
you're
who's
doing
trying
is
to.
not.
What you're saying is this looks like someone who's trying to succeed. Is that correct? Good
It depends
optics,
on what your definition of
looking-
success is. Is money the final measure of your success?
Outreach, reaching out, getting a lot of people to listen to what I say.
So
Is
what
that
are you
not
willing
what
to
you
give
want?
up to?
Is that
what are
not
you
what
willing
you
to
want,
give up?
Rob?
Faust, what are you willing to give up to accomplish that?
What have I given up?
But I'm
I
asking you.
believe
if
everything
that's
I believe
goal,
every word I'm
that's the
saying,
end
and I
goal.
believe not only, Rob, do I believe
That's
that
the
in
end
this
goal.
world I will succeed, but in the world to come, my heavenly Father will reward me for what I'm doing here on the internet.
I'm glad you think so.
It's an
Ben,
all-inclusive.
Reconsider using your
Current-
daughter as
hang
eye
on.
candy.
Buddy,
Current-
we win now and we
Well,
win
wait.
later.
Currently, Faust's blowing up channel. It is blowing up indeed. He's at 188 whopping subscribers. He is blowing it out of the water,
Wow.
right? Blowing
My
it
debate
out
with
of
you,
the
Michael
water.
Jones, broke 1,500 views.
Woo!
Hey.
You did it, man.
For 1 month is
Excellent.
pretty good.
Wow.
Excellent.
Killing it.
Well done,
Yeah, I
brother.
am.
Well
Thank you.
done. I mean, I don't
It hasn't been an
as
unmitigated
a
success.
general rule shit on people's channels because I know how much work goes into it. So I applaud you that you're
A lot of
putting the
work.
work into it.
Thank you.
Right? I just think that you're a fucking douchebag. Now,
We'll
Neon
see.
Noir for $22 says orange is orange enough. That was in reference to not muting Grace. Maurice Smithville sent $5 and asked, has been heard of democide?
Deicide.
Democide.
I've heard of deicide, the charge often levied against the Jewish people.
No, democide.
Don't know.
It's death by government. Democide.
Oh,
It was the leading
Demo,
cause.
the
It was
people.
it was the leading cause of death in the 20th century.
yeah, I agree. From governments that were not grounded in truth.
But
That's right.
Don't criticize them, though.
Yeah.
Well, they're the product of the Enlightenment, Rob. That you are.
And again,
so
it's
great.
you go back to this chicken egg thing. Okay, let's say that that's true. I don't concede that, but let's say that's true. They're the product of the Enlightenment. Then should we criticize them now?
Should we criticize who?
Those governments that are the product of
Yes,
the
Rob. But
Enlightenment.
unlike
Because
you,
it's-
what we should maybe do is look at the root problem. The root
That's-
problem.
Again, this is the same.
root
I had this
problem.
debate the other day, same sort of debate. We're talking about corruption in the FBI, and the guy saying, "Hey, man, isn't all corruption because of money? Isn't it capitalism?" Now I'm having the same debate with you. It's, "Hey, man, isn't it
Rob,
enlightenment?
okay,
Isn't
Rob,
that the
Rob,
problem?
okay,
Let's
okay,
talk
but
about
just- all right,
enlightenment." It's just
that's
fucking
enough, Rob.
childish.
Get the
It's
point,
childish.
get the point. Get the point. Rob, the National Socialist movement originated in what thought system?
Well, it
Racism.
originated. Wait, what? You want me to answer? If we're really getting to the root, it originated with thought, right?
Yeah, okay. What thoughts?
Well,
What
but it was
thoughts?
thought. So eliminate
What
thought.
thoughts were
If we
bad
eliminate
ones?
thought, that's what
Yeah.
you said. It
What
started with
thoughts-
thought. So let's
Hey,
eliminate thought.
Rob,
Ideas
Rob,
are
no
the problem.
speeches. No speeches. Just answer the question.
It's not
What
speech. I
thoughts?
get it.
Yeah, okay, great. What thoughts were upstream of the National Socialist
No.
Revolution?
See,
what thoughts,
I don't
Rob?
know. Listen,
Egalitarianism.
Let me answer. Let me
Racism?
answer.
No,
Let me answer. You
egalitarianism.
fucking ask the question. Let me
You
answer.
answer it.
You asked the question, right?
Answer it quickly. Answer it.
Okay. You're not thinking of the whole picture.
No, that's
You're
not the
going
answer.
downstream. I'm going to the root
I'll
cause.
answer
The
it
root
for Rob
cause-
because he's going to
No, shut the fuck
The
up. You
answer
asked the
is
question.
Darwin,
Shut up. I'm not going to leave him.
Darwinism,
I'm not going to leave him talk. I'm not going to leave him talk.
Hegelian
He asked me a
philosophy.
question. I'm not going to
You
leave him
do,
talk.
you do have to let him answer,
He
Ben.
asked me the question, so I'm going to answer. My answer is that just like when I talk about specific corruption at the FBI, and that's not the big picture, getting to the root cause. The root
You're not
cause
answering
of
the question.
I'm answering.
Answer
the
the
root
fucking
cause of all
question,
of it.
Rob.
Shut the fuck up and let me answer. The root cause of all of it is thoughts and idea. So Ben's
Right.
making the mistake of not going
What
to the root
thoughts,
cause.
Rob?
So my
What
answer,
thoughts?
thoughts in general, all thoughts. Why talk more specific? Why not focus on the root cause, Ben?
Yeah, thoughts, Rob. What kind
Thoughts.
of thoughts?
Eliminate thoughts. Great. Glad we agree. Thanks, Ben.
Oh, okay, that's not a straw man. I'm sitting here talking, sharing thoughts with
No,
you.
no,
Rob.
no, no. I said here
You're
and I talk
being
specifically about
irrational.
the FBI.
You're being
I'm not
irrational
being
and
irrational.
crying
What
like
you
a
want to
baby.
do is,
I
if
asked you a question. Answer it. Don't
All
say
right.
I answered the question.
Guys,
I answered the
guys,
question.
I've got to move on. I'm sorry, I've got to move on. Okay, so Maurice Smithville also sends in another $5 and says, "Buy Savage Memes Volume 4, made by Jim Bob." Just so you know, Maurice, you never have to pay to shill Jim Bob on this channel. I'm a big fan of his work, and while I do appreciate the dono, it's unnecessary to shill Jim Bob. Now, if you want me to shill Ben Thorp, it's going to cost a significant amount
it does cost a lot of
money.
The last 3
2
super chats weren't even read on this channel.
2.2
$5.
2.2 acres in it. Well, it wasn't enough. 2.2 acres in a bear for $2 says Ben blows. Okay.
He's been a long time hater. He's welcome to come to the channel and elaborate on that.
Sumeria Anna sent $5.57, says, "I feel the need to sub to Rob in order to compensate for the slow-witted grifting clown that has been inflicted onto him. Pranks can only go so far. They think it's a prank. They don't realize that you're actually, well, you know.
That's right, Andrew. A thoughtful person. A thoughtful person and an interesting internet celebrity. If you want to make Rob feel better, go ahead. Look at him. He's a mess. I get it. He's been brutalized.
Do you have red shoes in the dryer by chance?
Look at my new shoes. I love them.
Do you have red shoes?
I do have a pair of red bowling shoes with flames on the side of them.
They go with the clown nose?
I did recently find a clown outfit, but I haven't worn it yet.
All right. I'm sure you have. Next time you come on, we'll make sure that you get in that outfit. Maybe for
yeah. More outfits. I love it. I'll be
maybe
like
for
Papist,
Halloween
and I'll
we'll have
like
you
a
come
maple
on
tiara.
as a clown. Stephen Mulroney sent $5 and says, to Rob, echo chambers were called coherent communities 10 years ago. Rob's accepting a PSYOP scam in that concept.
I have no idea what they're talking about. I think that we should have, one of the reasons I like the Crucible is because people can come on here and discuss different ideas. I'm confident that my ideas are grounded in good thought. If they're not and someone beats me in an argument, then I'm able to adjust. I think that's a good thing. So I think echo chambers and just staying in your own bubble is not a good thing when it comes to ideas. I do think that we should balkanize into communities because things are getting so dangerous now, and the authorities and the establishment are sort of encouraging all sorts of bad shit to be happening to people, that you should balkanize so that your kids are being taught well and things like that. Ben has problems with echo chambers, except the biggest echo chamber, which is that of government bootlicking, which he happily belongs to.
Not true once again, Rob. But Rob, you said you were willing to adjust. I'm giving you some advice on how to adjust. Don't straw.
I don't need your advice. I don't need.
Well, you said you were willing to adjust because you don't want to be in an.
I approach people with good faith. You and Andrew had this discussion, right? I saw in your debate. I saw a little bit of it. I was at work, unfortunately, but Andrew said, "Why should I trust you?" That's how the debate started. He said, "Why should I trust you?"
Had nothing to do with the debate.
But here's what I'm going to say, right? My philosophy is this: when I'm interacting with people, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're a good faith actor when they come in, even if I know they're going to have positions that I massively disagree. You have lost my trust.
Rob,
you are pathetic.
Your
terrible.
opening
I don't need
statement
advice
was
from
an
you.
insult of me. You got
Goodbye.
yourself in the
I don't need you.
situation,
I don't
my
care
friend.
what you say.
Oh, I
You're
don't
worthless.
care what you say.
You're a grifter. Sorry. You've proven
Rob,
it to me.
Rob,
hang on,
come
Tim for $2
So
says Ben is a lesbian woman trapped in a man's body.
You know what I am? I'm a man with a larger
I
penis.
do know what you are. Yes.
I'm a man. I believe my transgender issue is I'm a man with a larger penis trapped in the body of a man with the penis the size that it is.
Tim Zimlick sent $10 and says, Ben, your wife told me
I demand reparations for that.
Your wife told me and your family didn't get the notorious inoculations. You flouted the largest institutional push in the last century. Tell me why you aren't a hypocrite. Thanks, Crucible.
I do not comment on my health information to anybody.
Yeah, what do the young kids, what do the young men think about that, Vin? They seem to not like people who went down that road, huh? They seem to get kind of upset about it.
We have a lot of legitimate questions. Yeah, that's right. The poor students who lost 2 years of their education. And
did you get the jabby, Ben? Did you get it? Did you get the jabby stabby?
You know, you guys are funny because when Grace went on the Whoremaxers, and I know we're all going to clutch our pearls, they all wanted to know whether she was a virgin.
You mean
some things people don't talk about.
You're saying that I'm likening your daughter's chastity to this? That's insanity. One, but two, I did see the Whoremaxer cut where your daughter was having to stare at a degenerate while he shook his ass in a Speedo at her.
That was great.
And you just sat there.
It's perfectly fine. Go watch it. It's a funny video. I have it on my channel.
Real quick. Here's a guy who wants to outlaw pornography, but cool with his daughter having to sit there and watching someone shake their ass at him. It's just sad.
Pornography.
It's just sad.
Rob, you ever been to the beach? Rob, have you ever been to the beach?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
We're not
look
talking
like
about me going to the beach. Was there an overt sexual act being engaged with in front of your daughter for your channel's benefit?
Hang on, guys. Ben, I got to ask you this. I have
People wear less clothing.
Well, I have a theory. And he wasn't at the beach. He was inside his fucking apartment.
He was wearing a swimwear.
Yeah. That's what he was doing. Anyway, so
not a
Ben,
daydream,
I gotta
right?
ask. I
No.
gotta ask this. I think. See, I have this thought that comes to mind. See, I think that's the only question that you won't answer, even though you demand that people trust you because you're a
Whether
truth
my daughter's
teller.
a virgin?
No, the jabby stabby. See, I think that you won't answer that because you are afraid that if you do, that you're going to get a lot of negative blowback from actually telling the truth. There's actually no reason for you to not say the status of that at all, except that you're afraid of blowback. When you ask me, the very first thing I ask you is, why should I trust you? And you say, because you should. Well, make me trust you, Ben.
No, that's not true, because there are reasons to withhold that information from public consumption.
Yeah,
there are
reasons.
reasons.
What?
Flying on airplanes, jobs, all sorts of stuff.
Wait. It's one of those reasons. It's what you're suggesting, that some of these institutions may punish you if the answer is wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Rob, I don't think Rob. Now we're going to do the straw man. But I thought you said blindly. No, shut up. We blindly have. Ben Thorp believes in blind faith of all institutions. I never said that. I didn't say that about the Catholic Church.
Yeah. I don't care
so
about
why
any
do
of that.
Keep doing
this
that?
Is my question to you.
Sure.
Right. So could you at least humor me and
everyone wants to know if the Thorps have been penetrated by various objects. That is our information to hold to ourselves.
No, you're sexualizing it on purpose in order to deflect from it. So the thing is I got to ask again on this particular topic of the jabbies.
Yeah.
You're obviously and clearly deflecting, and you could see that people would think that there might be an ulterior motive to that. And the most likely ulterior motive to that has nothing to do with a man at your age job hunting or having to get on an airplane, but more than likely because he doesn't want to get pinned down with the fact that he did that when he's trying to attract young men to his channel via his daughter's sexuality, right? That seems to make the most sense, doesn't it?
Well, the Hormaxer did invite us out to Vegas, and we're considering the offer, but it's going to have to be a series of negotiations. So in order to get on an airplane, there may be things. Look at Rob. He's getting upset. Look at him. His mother's energy is shining right through.
It's sad, pathetic. It's just sad. That's it.
Rob, maybe the world's a better place than you think it is, buddy.
Okay, Wicked
maybe
Wally,
God gave us the gift of sexuality and beautiful women.
Well, so
right?
Wicked Wally sent a $5 super chat and said, "I'm starting a fund to move Ben at least 2 additional states away from me. I need a better buffer zone."
I love Rhode Island. Where's he located?
I don't know. And even if I did, I wouldn't be saying anything about it. I'm
in beautiful Warren, Rhode Island. Everyone can come and dox me and swat me and everything else under the sun.
No, they can't. That's ridiculous. Don't say shit like that on my channel.
Sorry.
That's not.
Sorry, I didn't. I just meant I'm not. You can come knock on my door.
No, you can't. You can't do any of that. It's 100%.
I'm saying I don't care.
Dox free. Period. This environment.
I'm sorry.
Do that. Okay. So Notaverse for $5 said, "Was this been ever a part of the flirty fishing cult, and or is he working to revive it, or trying to become the new leader of it?"
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what the fishy cult is?
No.
The flirty fishing cult?
Is that a code word?
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
FC? Bless you.
Sorry.
It sounds like a code word for something.
I'm allergic to Ben.
Even through the internet.
Tim says,
Rob's, look at Rob. He's totally upset over there.
I'm not upset. You're pathetic. It's a waste of my time. I can't wait to debate someone who knows what they're talking about.
Tim for $2
you seem
says,
upset, Rob.
"Defund Ben's unemployment checks."
No unemployment. I sold some real estate.
Gray Idols. Oh yeah. Do you have to get on many planes to sell real estate, Ben?
I told you why I might be getting on a plane, although we have to negotiate.
So that you can go to Hormaxer's house with your daughter. Really? That's why you want to get on a plane?
Well, I'm considering it. I think it could be a kind of
Hormaxer?
Hormaxer is a degenerate from a.
He'd have a great time with you, Rob.
Yeah, from a pickup artist website.
He's a guy
YouTube
who's
channel.
Actually, it's really interesting. You should have a debate on this here, Andrew. And I know you like this, sort of like those folks. The black pill. You heard of that? The black pilled men incels.
Yeah, they don't want to engage with us because we can actually debate. Ben, there's only a few. There's only a few of the puas. Like they'll debate with you because you're you. But
yeah.
So
you've had Alex on.
Well, Alex is different. So anyway, Gray Idols for $3 and I think like 25 cents or something says the only master Ben should trust is the Stairmaster.
That's true. I have a weight problem.
Tim Zimlick for $5 says the Nazi Party arose in part as a reaction to the Catholic Church's support of World War I. That is true. That is 100% true, Ben.
The Catholic Church's support of World War I. I don't know anything about it.
Of course not. Okay. Grace sends in $10 and says, this is a shill fund for my channel. And tell your mods to quit timing me out. Yeah. You guys should watch just for me. I know my dad is boring, but I am a certified thought.
Incoherent. I tell her she's not there for her,
Yeah, what is she there for?
She's there to support me, and like you said, to bring young men to talk out their daddy issues with me. No, she's actually there. I encourage you to go. I'm very proud of her. She's done a great job, and she has thoughtful discussions. Just today, she had a very thoughtful stream with 7 or 8 young men who were there to talk to her and learn. These are men who don't talk to women, and we got them out from under their avatars and to tell us their names. And she told them not to be so worried.
Great, perfect. So bring in young men, have them put their faces all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
The internet's not that scary.
Yeah. Well, you ain't been on it very long. Grace, thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate it. Casey Bear says, Andrew, it's 2.2 acre in the bear, but keep it up for $2 super chat. Okay. I don't even know what the fuck that means. It's 2.2 motherfucking acres and he's a fucking bear. How about that? That's how I'm going to do it. It's 2.2 motherfucking acres in a bear. Jerry Mills tipped $5 and says, Big Jack Murphy vibes from Ben. You do have Jack Murphy vibes.
I don't know who that is.
Where's the porn tape, Ben? Where's the porn tape?
Who's Jack Murphy?
You don't know who Jack Murphy is?
No, a pornographer? Well, so you guys know who the pornographic actor is? And I'm the
we do know who the Jack Murphy is. Yeah, we do.
Well, it sounds like you guys are more into porn than all of this.
No, we know how to spot grifters.
Pearl clutching. You expose pornographic grifters on the internet, Rob?
Sometimes.
No, that's not what I said. We know how to recognize them, is what I'm saying. I didn't see him through his porn. I saw him because he was a grifter claiming to, much like yourself, be some conservative beacon. And it turned out that he was, in his private life, engaged in the very behaviors that he was criticizing because he was a grifter. Reminds us of someone. That's all.
If a grifter is someone who's going to succeed, then I absolutely take that.
All right, gentlemen. Moniker. This is the end of the debate. That is the end of the super chats. Thank you guys out there so much for all of
Rob, can we shake hands on the internet?
Shut up. Let me wind the fucking show down.
Andrew, high five. We had a great time.
It's funny because the chance for you to shout your channel out has now gone by the wayside. It's now gone by the wayside, right? So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that does for you. You know what I mean? Like, you know how many people listen to this in audio while they're driving? That's the big one, you know? And you fucked that up because you had to interrupt while I was winding the show down because you're a prick. Now, Rob Noerr, tell us all where they can find you.
So you can find me at Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube. You can find me at twitch.tv/Rob Noerr. I usually stream weeknights around 9 p.m. Eastern time. The best place you can find me is comfy.stream, which many of you are on right now. You can find me there under the name Rob Noerr. It's going to be my primary place of streaming. I really appreciate it. You can't speak for the quality of your opponent, but I always enjoy my time on here in the Crucible. And
wait, I missed one super chat that came in from Dono. It's from Cat Boy's Tongue My Anus is his name, and he says for Andrew, Zen Pack Fund, at least for just a month, you give up smoking to remove manletsins. Okay, so he's saying Beardson Beardley, I need to give up smoking for at least a month in order to hand this guy his ass. I'm going to tell you right now. Now, Rob, you may not know this, but there is a boxing match between myself and Beardson Beardley. And he did accept.
You with one arm?
One arm tied behind my back just to make it fair. Now, I'm not going to quit smoking. I'm not going to do any additional training. I'm not going to do any great exercise. I'm not going to do anything. And I think it'll be about a 10 second fight. Anyway, $10 he sent in. Appreciate it so much. Now, Ben, I'm going to give you the fucking opportunity to shout your channel out.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Oh, okay.
My YouTube channel is Ben Thorp.
Oh, you don't like it when people interrupt you when you're trying to do stuff? That's not fun. It's not fun. Ben, you don't like it?
Okay. I like to do a little back and forth.
Yeah, no. Go ahead. Shout your channel out.
My channel, YouTube channel, Ben
It's called
Thorp.
what now?
Can I get involved in this?
Yeah, what's it called? What's it called, Ben?
Yes. Well, I'm really interested to hear about this. Stop straw manning and tell us.
Yeah, stop straw manning. Tell us your channel name.
Okay. That's fine. I like a little back and forth. You know that, Andrew.
Yeah.
Ben Thorp.
That's a gish gallop.
Oh, that's a little bit of a gish gallop.
All right.
Just get to the point. You're taking too long.
Honestly, you take it forever. Just shout the channel out. Holy shit.
We had a good time, Rob. I'm just kidding with you. Ben Thorp, no E, aka Abel, on live streaming Monday through Friday and doing little debates on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My daughter's doing it Monday and Friday for any young men who'd like to talk about the difficulties that men and women have and also get lured apparently into a world of sensuality that destroys their minds. And
I didn't tell you to give us a fucking speech, Ben. Can you just shout the fucking channel out without the speech?
That's what I say. Thank you very much for everyone who watched, and thanks to Rob. He put up with my
yes, you're welcome. We
thanks
got
to
it.
Andrew.
Yes,
send in all of your money to him and those guys.
Yes, and all Ben wants is reach, which is why he's going to send me all of his money. Anyway, have a great night, everybody. Right? We appreciate it. We can see that the person who sent in the super chat explaining that she's a certified one at that, was dancing behind you. Interesting. Have a great night, everybody. Take care. Rob, stick around for a second. We got the traditional after show chit chat we got to do. So take care, everybody.